Hare Krishna Danupnam. Uh, I will take devotee's name today and we will not follow the sequence. I will just say any devotee's name and that time that devotee have to speak. So please be ready for your turn today. And if possible, devotees can please switch on their cameras. Shaurya Sharma Mataji. This is Rasik Priya Sham Prabhuji. Uh, Lakshmi Mahesh Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept our humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna. Jai. Accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Most of the devotees are here already.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, then let's start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nashtapraeshu Apadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pustaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschajade Shatarane. Yeah, so welcome everyone back to this morning's class. We're covering Canto 4, Chapter 9. So yesterday we saw how Dhruva got angry after being insulted, left home, went to the forest, met Narada Muni. Narada first tested him and then instructed him in a process of bhakti to achieve the Lord's darshan. which he practiced with great determination. He achieved the darshan of the Lord. And did he achieve the darshan? Oh no, we didn't get that far yet. We're going to get to that right now. Okay, so that brings us up to chapter 9, which is called Dhruva Maharaj Returns Home. But some important things are going to happen before Dhruva Maharaj returns home. So I'll just read the Sanskrit here of text 1. Maitreya vacha ta eva mutsana baya urukrame kritavanama prayayustrivashtapam sahasrashirsha pitato garutmata madorvanam brityadi drikshaya gata. All right, someone please read the translations for text 1 to 5.
We will read in the sequence A to Z. So alphabetically sequence we will read. If somebody doesn't read, I'll speak the name then. Hargis Ananila Machi, please start.
The great sage Maitreya told Vidura, when the demigods were thus reassured by the personality of Godhead, they were freed from all fears, and after offering their obeisances, they returned to their heavenly planets. Then the Lord, who is not different from the Sahasra Sirsha incarnation, got on the back of Garuda, who carried him to the Madhuvan forest to see his servant Dhruva. Text 2. The form of Lord, which was brilliant like lightning, and in which Dhruva Maharaj, in his mature yogic process, was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Thus, Dhruva was perturbed, and his meditation broke. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. Text 3. When Dhruva Maharaj saw his Lord just in front of him, he was greatly agitated and offered him obeisances and respect. He fell flat before him like a rod and became absorbed in love of Godhead. Dhruva Maharaj, in ecstasy, looked upon the Lord as if he were drinking the Lord with his eyes, kissing the lotus feet of the Lord with his mouth, and embracing the Lord with his arms. Text 4. Although Dhruva Maharaj was a small boy, he wanted to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in suitable language. But because he was inexperienced, he could not adjust himself immediately. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, could understand Dhruva Maharaj's awkward position. Out of his causeless mercy, he touched his conch shell to the forehead of Dhruva Maharaj, who stood before him with folded hands. Text 5. At that time, Dhruva Maharaj became perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusion and understood the absolute truth and his relationship with all living entities. In accordance with the line of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, whose fame is widespread, Dhruva, who in the future would receive a planet which would never be annihilated, even during the time of dissolution, offered his deliberate and conclusive prayers.
All right, thank you. So yeah, yesterday we left off with the Dhruva Maharaj was performing his severe austerities there in Madhuvan on the banks of the Yamuna, and it was affecting the whole universe. The whole universe was becoming suffocated. The demigods even were not able to breathe, and they were in great distress. So typically whenever the demigods are in distress, then they call out to the Lord for help. So Lord Vishnu appeared there before the demigods and reassured them that he was going to deal with the situation. So this is one of the things that Lord Vishnu does. He's the maintainer. Like Lord Brahma creates, Lord Shiva destroys, but Lord Vishnu maintains. Because maintenance is the most difficult task out of the three. So Lord Vishnu, he goes to the demigods, he says, okay, I'm going to remedy the situation. And then he gets on the back of Garuda and they go flying down to planet Earth. I guess it's planet Earth. I'm assuming it's planet Earth. Yeah, it must be because it's the time of creation. It's the dynasty. Yeah. He flies down to planet Earth and goes to have a word with Dhruva Maharaj. So, yeah, part of Lord Vishnu's job as maintenance is actually just like if someone's a temple president, they're maintaining the temple. So the job is not just to make sure that the lights are working and the temple is clean and that, you know, if something is broken, that they fix it. It's not just maintaining the actual physical structures. So Lord Vishnu, as maintainer of the universe, he's not just worrying about the physical structures of the universe, making sure that the planets are in orbit and the sun is rising at the right time and all that. Of course, he does keep an eye on that too. But a big part, just like maintaining a temple, the main part is actually taking care of the devotees. So we see that Lord Vishnu, in maintaining the universe, a big part of what he does is actually devotee care. And so he's taking care of the demigods. When the demigods are in trouble, then he reassures them. And when Dhruva Maharaj is, you know, in his situation, now he's also going to go and take care of Dhruva Maharaj. So the Lord is just going from this group of devotees to that devotee to another group of devotees, and he's appearing here and there again and again to take care of his devotees. And Krishna says that, you know, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartayam sambhavami yuge yuge. That those are the reasons that I come to. And the first one is Paritranaya sadhunam. So that's the first thing on Krishna's mind. When he thinks about why he appears, the first thing that comes to his mind is Paritranaya sadhunam. I come to deliver the sadhus. I come to give relief to them, to my devotees, whenever they're suffering. And we see he does that again and again. So this is one of those situations. And something very beautiful that we see about the Lord's reciprocation and interactions with his devotees is that Dhruva was meditating on a particular form of the Lord, exactly according to how Narada Muni had described. Yesterday we heard that beautiful description of the form of the Lord. And so Dhruva was meditating on that form. And Srila Prabhupada says that the Lord appeared in that exact same form. So this is a characteristic of the Lord, that whatever form of the Lord the devotee is really attracted to. Because, you know, some devotees are more attracted to Lord Vishnu, some devotees are more attracted to Krishna, some devotees like Lord Nrsingadev. And even if you're attracted to Krishna, there's different, you know, manifestations of Krishna, different like ages of Krishna, different moods of Krishna. So, you know, now we're in the month of Kartik. And so, you know, we're meditating on Krishna in his baby form, tied with ropes by Mother Yashoda. So, you know, Krishna's baby form is a very unique, Krishna in his baby form has very unique characteristics that he doesn't have in his other forms, you know, in his Kaishora form. So if someone is meditating on that form, then that's the form in which the Lord will appear. And there's a very nice verse from the third canto, which you may remember, in which Lord Brahma glorifies the Lord for this quality. So this is 3:9-11. He says, Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja ase shutekshita pato nanunata pumsam yad yad dhyata udugaya vibhavayanti tad tad vapu pranayase sadanugrahaya. So this translation here, O Lord, your devotees see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed and you take your seat there. So that's the first part of the translation. And this applies to Dhruva Maharaj because Dhruva heard from Narada, so that Shutekshita, he was able to see through the ears by hearing. So he heard that description of the Lord, and that just hearing it, it went into his ears and into his heart, and it manifests, that vision of the Lord manifests in his heart and mind, because his heart was cleansed. So yeah, it speaks here about by hearing, the heart becomes cleansed. So Dhruva Maharaj, his heart was cleansed, and the Lord appeared in his heart. And then yad yad dhiya. So yad yad means whatever, just like yad yad acharati shreshtas, whatever action a great man performs. So yad yad dhiya, whatever it is that you're meditating on, whatever form you're thinking of, then tad tad vapu. Tad tad means that very one. Vapu, that very form that you're meditating on, that you've made your life and soul, right? Pranaya say that you've made your prana dana, you've made your ishtadev, that will appear, that the Lord will appear to you in that very form. So that's what Brahma is saying. You're so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular form of transcendence in which they always think of you. So Dhruva Maharaj was thinking of a particular form, and that exact form appeared to him. So that's very nice, you know, as we meditate on Krishna, when we're chanting our japa, or whenever we're just thinking of Krishna. One time I was in a class, and the devotee asked us to all just think about Krishna. Whatever, you know, just think of Krishna. So we all, you know, tried to think of Krishna. And then he asked us, describe the Krishna that you thought of. And everybody's was different, you know, some thought of a particular deity, some thought of, you know, a particular pastime, some thought of, you know, different age or different qualities. So because we're all unique, you know, Krishna made us unique individuals, we're eternal individuals. So our pastimes, our perception, our meditation on Krishna will also be unique according to our personalities. And Narada Muni also saw this when he went to Dwarka to visit Krishna in his different palaces with his 16,108 queens, that in each palace Krishna was behaving differently. Why? Because he was acting in a way that particularly suited the mentality of each queen. So if one queen was more, you know, introverted, more of a homebody, then he would just be sitting on the sofa, you know, having an intimate conversation with her. If another queen was more adventurous, then he would be, you know, taking her, doing some, you know, exciting activity. So just one just wanted to, you know, one liked to play games, so he would be playing chess or playing dice. And another was more like into the children, so then he would be playing with the children together. So like that, whatever the wife was into, then Krishna would interact in that way. So Krishna is very amenable. He's very personal. And you know, usually when we think of surrendering to Krishna, we think, oh, we just have to sacrifice whatever we want to do and do what Krishna wants us to do. Right? That's usually what we think of. We have to give up so much and forget about our own preferences and likes and dislikes, and just, you know, follow Guru and Krishna and do what they want. And that's what it means to be a devotee. But from one side, yes, that's there. But from another side, you know, we have our eternal natures, and Krishna actually, I mean, I guess you can't say he sacrifices what he wants to do what we want to do. But the thing is that he wants to do what we want to do. And in our pure state, we also want to do what Krishna wants to do. And we want to do things together that we like doing together with Krishna and with Krishna's associates. So now, because we're in the conditioned state, everything seems so complicated. But in the purified state, then everything becomes very natural and very harmonious. So yeah, so Dhruva's now he's seeing this form of the Lord that he was meditating on, and he becomes ecstatic. Just like, you know, just imagine when you're chanting japa and you're being really focused and attentive in your japa, and you're praying to Krishna and meditating on Krishna. And then all of a sudden he's just there. He's just literally there in his original transcendental form, exactly the form that you were just meditating on him. Imagine how ecstatic you would be. So Dhruva Maharaj, and interesting because he's meditating on him with closed eyes within his mind, but then all of a sudden he can't see him in his mind anymore. So he becomes disturbed. He's like, where did Krishna go? And so he opens his eyes like, where he just disappeared. And then he's like, there he is. So yeah, just the way the Lord does things is so sweet, you know. It's so like he wants to invoke emotion. He wants to evoke feelings. He creates like a moment of separation there, and then immediately it comes to save Dhruva Maharaj from his frustration in his meditation. So yeah, Prabhupada says that Dhruva Maharaj was exhibiting, he developed all 8 types of transcendental ecstasy, of devotional ecstasy, and that he looked upon the Lord as if he were drinking the Lord with his eyes, kissing the lotus feet of the Lord with his mouth, and embracing the Lord with his arms. So he didn't actually kiss the Lord's lotus feet or get up and give him a big hug, but he was looking at the Lord as if he would like to. And I was thinking that, you know, in the material world, we have the very perverted reflection of this, where, you know, let's say a man sees a beautiful woman and he'll be looking at her in a particular way, you know, just imagining, you know, touching her body or kissing her or, you know, whatever. So that's a very perverted reflection of what was going on here, that the Lord was so beautiful that he just desired to touch him, to embrace him, to kiss his lotus feet. And so this is actually like the perverted reflection. It's a reflection. It means that there's a reality in which that happens. So we don't want to be perverse. We don't want to do things, you know, on the opposite end of the spectrum of what it should be. So the real thing is love. The real thing is loving attraction, and the real object of love is Krishna. But we, you know, when that love comes in contact with material energy, then it becomes lust, and then we have all these other feelings and other objects of meditation that simply degrade us. So yeah, so we need to divert our attention to Krishna, divert our meditation, divert our desires to loving Krishna, to embracing Krishna, to touching Krishna and kissing his lotus feet. It sounds funny, but yeah. And when we take darshan of the deity also in the temple, we should do so with intense feeling, you know, really look at Krishna like, wow, and Krishna's beautiful form, and try to do so with feelings that I would really like to, you know, interact with you, Krishna. I would really like to embrace you. You're so beautiful. You're so merciful that you've come before me. So yeah, try to, when we see the deity, try to imagine what it was like for Dhruva Maharaj to see the Lord in his personal form right in front of him. And we also have that opportunity through the deity. And now we see how the Lord facilitates our desires, not just to see him, but also to glorify him. Because sometimes we might think, you know, who am I to speak about Krishna? What do I know about Krishna? Or, you know, to write books about Krishna or Krishna Bhakti. You know, who am I? I'm just a conditioned soul here, struggling with my mind and senses in the material world. But Srila Prabhupada makes the point here in text 5 that Krishna will give us whatever intelligence we need. And Krishna says that also in Bhagavad Gita, Tesham Satata Yuktanam, Bhajatam Pratipurvakam, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, Yenamam Upayantite. That if we're just sincere, if we're just devoted to serving Krishna with love, then he will give us the intelligence. He'll give us the understanding by which we can come to him, and also by which we can bring others to him. So, yeah, so, I mean, I've personally had this experience so many times that I remember being a very new devotee, and the first time they asked me to give a Sunday feast class, I'd literally been a devotee for just a few months. And I was like, what do I know? And they said, no, you're intelligent. You just speak from the heart. So, I got up there on the Vyasa-san in front of a big crowd there in the London temple and read a Bhagavad Gita verse in purport. And then I just started talking. And I was like amazed at what came out. I was just like, what is going on here? Where is this even coming from? I was even quoting verses that I didn't even know. Like, yeah, I had heard, in the class, but I didn't know that I had, I didn't know the Sanskrit, but I recited the English like practically perfectly, like verbatim. I was like, I didn't even know that I knew that verse. Like I had never even tried to remember it, and I didn't think that I could remember it, but there it was. And after I got off the seat, I was just like really floored by how Krishna had given me the words that he wanted me to say. And that happens all the time. It just happens all the time. Whenever you're really, I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that because you're, studying Shastra, and I'm sure many of you give classes and things in various contexts. So, and it's a wonderful experience. You feel really connected to Krishna. You feel like you're just being Krishna's instrument and he's using you. And it's such a wonderful feeling. So in the same way, Lord Vishnu touched the conch shell to Dhruva Maharaj's head, and Dhruva Maharaj he just started speaking these eloquent prayers and eloquent glorifications full of knowledge and perfect philosophical understanding, and he was only 5 years old. So Srila Prabhupada says that when one is thus inspired, the sound he produces exactly corresponds to the sound vibration of the Vedas. So speaking Krishna consciousness doesn't depend so much on education, but it depends on inspiration and it depends on revelation. Nowadays, there are many mundane scholars. They're not devotees, but they take an interest in Vedic literatures or even Gaudiya Vaishnav texts, and they'll do PhD studies on the books of the Goswamis or something like that. And even though when they speak, they know what Jiva Goswami said in this verse and that verse, and they can make a solid philosophical point, and but they don't become devotees. And actually their explanations are kind of disturbing. If you hear a non-devotee speaking something about especially esoteric topics like Radha Krishna Lila or something, it's actually very disturbing. It's like uncomfortable. You just want to just stop talking, please. Even though they're talking about Krishna, it's like, ugh. So, but on the other hand, even if a very simple, very new, young, uneducated devotee talks about Krishna, then it's so satisfying, because they've had some realization from their service and from their sincerity. And then if a devotee is also a scholar, then it becomes amazing. Like we have Radhika Raman Prabhu. He's one of my favorite speakers. I don't know if you've never heard him speak, then go online and find a lecture by Radhika Raman Prabhu. He's a devotee he's of Indian origin, but he was born in America to devotee parents. And his mother homeschooled him based on the Bhagavatam. His whole primary school education was based on Srimad Bhagavatam. And then I think he started college at the age of 12, and he got his PhD when he was 21 or something like that. So, and now he's a university professor, and he speaks, he teaches about, something to do with Indian religions and philosophy and things like that. And he's just incredible. So, yeah, Krishna can empower us. And also with writing, whenever I wrote a little commentary on the Bhagavad Gita called the Living Gita. And I remember when I was ashram leader at the time at the temple in Gainesville, and I had one day off a week. That was Thursday. So every Thursday, I would go to the university library, and they have one floor there that's like, it's called the quiet floor. You go there and there's just desks and it's silent. And I would just, as soon as breakfast finished, I would get my computer, my books, and I would go there and get a little cubby thing there that you can sit in for privacy. And I would just literally sit there for 8 hours and write. And sometimes I would be so tired, I would be like falling asleep, I would be I would be typing and like dozing off, but somehow like my fingers were still going. And then I would like wake up and I would read what I wrote and I would be like, oh my God, what was that? I don't know. It was a very incredible experience. And then after reading those commentaries, I'm thinking that I didn't write that, there was something else. So it's very wonderful, being a devotee, and when we sincerely pray and take shelter of Krishna and try to present the teachings of our acharyas, wonderful things can happen. So this is very encouraging, and I hope you're all encouraged to give more classes and write your realizations and share your own inspirations and revelations, because every devotee has them. Every devotee has their little like treasure box, like a little jewelry box that you open, and it has your little, or my mother used to have this little cedar box that she kept like very precious things, like little newspaper clippings and things that were very dear to her. There was like random items in that box. And then after she left her body, my brother kept that box and he didn't change anything. And recently I went to visit him, and he brought out that box. And I was like, oh my God, our mother's cedar box. And we were just going through the things. There were some pictures and newspaper clippings and some little items just little things, that were very precious to her. And the cedar box keeps things, so that it repels insects. So those things were preserved very nicely. So every devotee has this little cedar box, this little treasure box of inspirations and realizations and little ways in which Krishna or devotees have personally touched their hearts in unique ways. And so we all have something to share that, when we find someone who's receptive and who's sincere and really wants to learn and wants to advance, then we can open those boxes and we can show them what's inside. And it's very special. And, whenever you feel that a devotee is doing that, is opening their cedar box, and sharing their personal treasures with you, you feel so blessed, right? You feel so special. Like a couple of years ago, I went to Govardhan and I met His Holiness Sita Krishna Maharaj there. And he took us to Manasi Ganga. And he was going to show us some places around Manasi Ganga, some, different samadhis and temples and things. And it was around 5 p.m. when we left. And he said, well, we can either go to see the different temples and places, or we can have katha. So there was a small group. It was just 4 of us. It was me and 3 brahmacharis that had come with me from America. So we were all unanimously like, katha, Maharaj, we want to just do katha. We want to hear from you. So we sat on the steps there at Manasi Ganga, and Maharaj just started talking. And we sat there. So it was 5 p.m. and we sat there, the sun set, it got dark, it got very dark. Everybody went home. Even the dogs went to sleep on the steps, nearby. And we sat there until like 10:30, just like 5.5 hours. And Maharaj was just like sharing, like not just the pastimes, but like telling us all about his life. He literally told us his whole life story and many things that he shared. And he even told us like, oh, I never told anyone this before, but somehow it was just the environment and we were so eager, and we were just, and all of us were just like so rapt attention. And I was literally thinking, I could sit here all night. I could sit here and watch the sunrise, listening from sunset to sunrise. And we all felt so blessed, it was really sweet. So in the same way that we feel enlivened by hearing devotees sharing their personal things. We should also share, with younger devotees, whatever it is, whatever our little jewels are, and that nourishes them. Don't think that you don't have anything to offer. Every devotee has something very valuable to offer for others to make spiritual advancement. Okay, so we should move on. So now we're going to actually hear the prayers offered by Dhruva Maharaj. So remember, this is a 5-year-old boy. He's just a little boy. He's never done Bhakti Shastri. He's never heard any scriptures, but by the blessings of the Lord, by that touch of the transcendental conch shell, he's able to offer these beautiful prayers. So let's have someone read text 6 to 17.
Maharaj said, "My dear Lord, you are all powerful. After entering within me, you have enlivened all my sleeping senses, my hands, legs, ears, touch sensation, life force, and especially my power of speech. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you." Text 7. My Lord, you are the Supreme One, but by your different energies, you appear differently in the spiritual and material worlds. You create the total energy of the material world by your external potency. And after creation, you enter within the material world as a super soul. You are the Supreme Person, and through the temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestation. Just as fire, entering into wood of different shapes, burns brilliantly in different varieties. Text 8. O my Master, Lord Brahma is fully surrendered unto you. In the beginning, you gave him knowledge, and thus he could see and understand the entire universe, just as a person awakens from sleep and visualizes his immediate duties. You are the only shelter of all persons who desire liberation, and you are the friend of all who are distressed. How, therefore, can a learned person who has a perfect knowledge ever forget you? Text 9. Person who worship you simply for the sense gratification of this bag of skin are certainly influenced by your illusory energy. In spite of having you, who are like a desired tree and are the cause of liberation from birth and death, foolish persons such as me desire benediction from you for sense gratification, which is available even for those who live in hellish conditions. Text 10. My Lord, the transcendental bliss derived from meditating upon your lotus feet or hearing about your glories from pure devotees is so limited that it is far beyond the stage of Brahmanand, wherein one thinks himself merged in the impersonal Brahm as one with the Supreme. Since Brahmanand is also defeated by the transcendental bliss derived from devotional service, then what to speak of the temporary blissfulness of elevating oneself to the heavenly planets, which is ended by the separating sword of time. Although one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, he falls down in due course of time. Text 11. Dhruva Maharaj continued, O unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate with great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service constantly as the waves of a river constantly flow. Such transcendental devotees are completely situated in an uncontaminated state of life. By the process of devotional service, I shall surely be able to cross the national ocean of material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing, fire-like dangers. It will be very easy for me, for I am becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes, which are eternally existent. Text 12. O Lord, who have a lotus navel, if a person happens to associate with a devotee whose heart always hankers after your lotus feet, seeking always your fragrance, he is never attached to the material body or in a body relationship, to offsprings, friends, home, wealth, and wife, which are very, very dear to materialistic persons. Indeed, he does not care for them. Text 13. My dear Lord, O Supreme Unborn, I know that the different varieties of living entities, such as animals, trees, birds, reptiles, demigods, and human beings, are spread throughout the universe, which is caused by the total material energy. And I know that they are sometimes manifest and sometimes unmanifest. But I have never experienced the supreme form I behold as I see you now. Now all kinds of method of theorizing have come to an end. Text 14. My dear Lord, at the end of each millennium, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, dissolves everything manifested within the universe into his belly. He lies down on the lap of Sheshnag From his navel sprouts a golden lotus flower on a stem, and on that lotus, Lord Brahma is created. I can understand that you are the same Supreme Godhead. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Text 15. My Lord, by your unbroken transcendental glance, you are the supreme witness of all stages of intellectual activities. You are eternally liberated. Your existence is situated in pure goodness, and you are existent in the super soul without change. You are the original personality of Godhead, full with such opulences, and you are eternally the master of the three modes of material nature. Thus, you are always different from the ordinary living entities. As Lord Vishnu, you maintain all the affairs of the entire universe, and yet you stand aloof and are the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. Text 16, my dear Lord, in your impersonal manifestation of Brahm, there are always two opposing elements, knowledge and ignorance. Your multi-energies are continually manifest, but the impersonal Brahm, which is undivided, original, changeless, unlimited, and blissful, is the cause of the material manifestation. Because you are the same impersonal Brahm, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Text 17, my Lord, O Supreme Lord, you are the supreme personified form of all benediction. Therefore, for one who abides in your devotional service with no other desire, worshipping your lotus feet is better than becoming king and lording it over a kingdom. That is the benediction of worshipping your lotus feet. To ignorant devotees like me, you are the causelessly merciful maintainer, just like a cow who takes care of the newly born calf by supplying milk and giving it protection from attack.
All right. Thank you very much. You read that very enthusiastically. So, yeah, there's a lot here. And we see throughout the Bhagavatam that a lot of the philosophy about the Lord and his situation, his position in relation to the world is given in prayers, because there's a lot of the Bhagavatam that is narrative. You know, it's just telling the story. There's some pastime that's going on. There's some drama. There's some conflict. So that is to get our attention, because in Kali Yuga, people can't listen to philosophy very long. We need stories. So yeah, Srila Vyasadeva knew that, and so he presented Bhagavatam as so many different stories, one story after the other. So Bhagavatam is actually, it's very exciting. You know, some of these stories are really like gripping, like what's going to happen next? Oh no, what's going to happen now? So we get pulled into the story, but then of course the philosophy also has to be there. And so the way that things are presented is so intelligently that a lot of the philosophy is in there, you know, in almost every pastime, there will be some section where there are prayers. And some of the prayers are very long, you know, like prayers of the personified Vedas is so long and so philosophically dense. So here we're getting a good dose of philosophy about the Lord, his position in relation to creation, in relation to the universe. And of course, all the prayers are different because they're given, but the person who's speaking them is also they're understanding the Lord in terms of their own point of view. So you know, Dhruva Maharaj is saying things like about how, you know, foolish people approach you with material desires, but actually you are the Lord who can award it and everything, you know, even liberation. So yeah, he's reflecting on from his own consciousness that, oh, this is how I approached you. And so he's particularly glorifying the Lord from his perspective. So we see that. So good. The first thing that Dhruva Maharaj expresses is that he feels like he's awakened from a sleeping condition. So this is the effect of chanting the holy name. So Dhruva Maharaj is chanting the holy name, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And so he's feeling this effect. And this reminded me of the song Jeev Jago. Jeev Jago, Gora Chandra Bole, Kota Nidra Jayo Maya, Pisha Chir Kole. Eneche Shadi Maya, Nashibar Lagi, Harinam Mahamantra, Lao Tumi Magi. So this Harinam Mahamantra by chanting the holy name. That's the medicine for waking us up. So Dhruva Maharaj is chanting the holy name and he's being woken up. He's actually experiencing, because devotional service can be experienced, right? Pratyaksha vagamam dharmyam, that it's directly experienced through sense perception. So Dhruva Maharaj is literally experiencing how through practicing bhakti, through chanting the holy name, he's waking up. And he was sleeping on the lap of the witch of Maya, immersed in material life, and now he's waking up. So yeah, often, well, let me ask you, I'll ask you to answer this question. What are some of the ways that you feel like you've woken up? Like, what are the differences between your awakened state in Krishna consciousness, or at least semi-awakened state, because we still have a lot more awakening to do to know who we really are eternally with Krishna. But what are some of the ways that practicing Krishna consciousness has woken you up from your own experience? Yes, Rukmini Hari Sevani, Mataji.
Mataji, but the best thing what I like in Krishna consciousness is to hear from the senior devotees or Vaishnavas. When I did Bhakti Shastri, when I did Vaishnav Sadachar course, when I did IDC by His Grace Bimlav Sat Prabhu, whenever I do the spiritual courses now, I have been doing Bhakti Vaibhava. Whenever hear from the senior devotees, so now I feel like, yes, this is the life. This is, to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, to understand the Tattva with the help of senior devotees. This is the life and soul. So this really helps me to awake. Like, this is like my personal experience, that I always awake. Oh, yes, this, okay, I was thinking like something else. Okay, this is the Tattva which I need to be understood like this, Mataji.
Okay, so you can feel your perspective, your understanding changed from hearing. Okay, good. Someone else? Yes, Antaryami Balaram Prabhu.
Mataji, like earlier when I was chanting, then I was just speaking and trying to hear, but after attending some couple of courses and workshops, then I later realized that while chanting, there should be some meaning to it, there should be some affection to it, there should be something, I should be aiming towards, rather than just speaking and, have nothing from the heart or nothing in mind. So that a little bit change in the way I chant now.
Okay, good. So there is some awakening in terms of waking up to the actual meaning of the mantra and the opportunity which chanting actually is giving us. Good. Thank you. Ganga Shakti Mataji.
Mataji, I feel Krishna consciousness has helped me awaken in terms of my response to things, my response to situations, my response to people, my response to other things that happen around me. It has helped me to respond in, it has, at least theoretically, I am not able to do it properly even now, but it has given me a perspective which is different from everything else.
Good. Yeah, that it's definitely, that's definitely an awakening, right? That you wake up and it's like, now I can see clearly, I understand things, I know what the right response is. Great. Rasika Priya, Sham Prabhu.
I feel that the whole Krishna conscious journey itself is a awakening process. As you advance in the process and awaken to reality, I mean, it's just every day as you are diving in deeper, it's the awakening of many of the an uncovering of many of the truths which we were not aware before. The whole what is the purpose of life? I mean, to have a goal attached to our life and not let it drift away just like in the enjoyment of material senses. So all this is a step-by-step awakening, I would say.
Yeah, good. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I became a devotee, it was like when I understood what Krishna consciousness was, I was literally like, I wasted my whole life up to this point. Everything I did before coming to Krishna consciousness just felt to me like a waste of time. Like, what was I doing? What was I thinking? You know, it was just so dumb. So yeah, now I've woken up. I've understand this is what my life is for. This is who I am. This is what I'm trying to achieve. So yeah, that's really important. Good. Thank you all for sharing. So these are evidences of Krishna's mercy, you know, that by Krishna's mercy, because it's only by Krishna's mercy that we can actually wake up. And yeah, this is Dhruva Maharaj. He got the mercy, he got the darshan, he got the touch of the Lord. And so all of these things are glorifications of the process of bhakti and the mercy of the spiritual master and the Lord to reveal himself. And the word here that's used is swadama. It probably translates the energy of the Lord. But that's actually the swadama, the internal energy of the Lord is actually Srimati Radharani. So by Radharani's mercy, you know, because she's trying to bring us back to Krishna. So she's like calling, wake up, wake up. That's Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is calling, Jeev Jago, Jeev Jago. Why? Because he's in the mercy of Srimati Radharani. She wants, wake up, what are you doing there? You could be with Krishna, you know, like Krishna's the most wonderful person. We all want to be with Krishna. We're just pining for, you know, being with Krishna. And you also have the chance. So let's go, come on, let's go. Krishna's playing his flute, he's calling all of us. What are you doing there, rotting in the material world? So yeah, by her mercy, we can wake up. And that mercy comes down through Lord Chaitanya, through the Acharyas, through the Prabhupada, through our gurus, and through the devotees. So yeah, text 7, we see that Dhruva comes to understand how the Lord is pervading everything, how he is he's present everywhere by his energies, and he's the shelter and the best friend of everyone. And then in text 8, we see that how he reciprocates with different kinds of people. Yeah, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this verse that the Lord reciprocates in different ways to 3 different kinds of devotees who approach him. So that verse 7:16, Chatur Vida Bhajante Mam Jana Supritinor Juna. So there's the 3 kinds of people there. And he says that the Lord, for the jnanis, those who approach him seeking knowledge of the absolute truth, then the Lord gives knowledge. And for those who are curious, the jigyasus, then the Lord shows them that his lotus feet are the ultimate shelter. Oh, you've come to me just out of curiosity? Let me reveal that I'm the shelter of everyone. And then for the artas, those who are in distress, then Krishna becomes the friend. It shows them that I'm your best friend. You can cry on my shoulder. You've come to me in distress. Here I am. Just, you know, cry on my shoulder. I'm going to hold your hand and help you through this. And then for those who are, you know, artis that are desiring wealth, then Krishna also reveals his opulences and his power that to fulfill all of their desires. So yeah, Krishna is the best friend of everyone. And Prabhupada specifically says here in the purport to text 8, how the more a devotee engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord, the more encouragement is supplied by the energy of the Lord. So yeah, the ways in which Krishna reveals himself to different kinds of people is just to encourage them. Oh, you want knowledge? Here's knowledge. You want to know more about me? Here's who I am. You need someone to help you through your distress? I'm here. I'm your friend. I can help you. You want something material? I am the possessor of everything. You know, I can give you whatever you want. So depending on how we approach him, he also reciprocates in the way which will specifically encourage us the most. And then we become grateful. We feel very peaceful and grateful to the Lord. Prabhupada says, being so encouraged, the devotee can never forget at any moment the personality of Godhead. He always feels obliged to him for having achieved increased power in devotional service by his grace. So, yeah, when Krishna reciprocates with us and encourages us, then we want to give back. When someone is there for us, we want to be there for them. When someone encourages us, we want to also do something to please them. So this is how our devotional service is fueled by the Lord's encouragement. And then Dhruva Maharaj says that the happiness from serving you is the best happiness ever. In the Nectar Devotion, Rupa Goswami talks about different kinds of happiness derived from material enjoyment, sense gratification, happiness of liberation, and then happiness derived from devotional service. And he says that of all these, happiness derived from devotional service is the highest. And that's because it's the only one that really resonates with our true nature. Because there may be some pleasure from sense gratification, but that's all to do with the body, and we're not the body. So how can we really enjoy bodily pleasures when we're not the body? And then there's a lot more happiness that comes from Brahmananda, from impersonal liberation. But that too, it's not who we are. We're ultimately not impersonal. So that doesn't satisfy us because it denies us from our basic constitutional needs for relationships and for service to the Lord. So although that's a lot better than just bodily gratification, because at least it's spiritual, but it's not really supporting our real needs as persons. So it's only happiness from devotional service that is ultimately satisfying. So Dhruva Maharaj he's pointing this out, and he's pointing it out from his own experience, because in the service to the Lord that he's been doing, guided by Narada Muni, he's actually felt so much happiness. And so he's realized that these other kinds of happiness are just temporary and useless. In text 11, we see that Dhruva Maharaj, now he's going to come with a request. So it's sort of sandwiched here in between. So he starts with some glorifications and he ends with some glorifications, but then sandwiched in between the glorifications is his request. But he also has a very beautiful request. What is it? What is he specifically asking the Lord for? Who caught that? Or you can look at text 11 and see.
Association with devotees.
That's right. Yeah, he wants the association of devotees. So yeah, O unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate with great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service constantly as the waves of a river constantly flow. And then he's saying that why do I want this association? Because by the association of such devotees, devotional service becomes so easy. Spiritual advancement becomes very easy. He says, by that association, by practicing devotional service and in the association of devotees, I shall surely be able to cross the nascent ocean of material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing fire-like dangers. So this material world is a very dangerous place, but in the association of devotees, by practicing devotional service, we can very easily cross beyond it. And he says, why? Why will it be easy? Because it will be very easy for me, for I am becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes, which are eternally existent. So because in the association of devotees, we hear about Krishna, right? There's that nice verse, Satam prasangam mama virya samvido. How's it go? Does anyone know that verse? Sayana Kata. Yeah. Touch Joshanad Yat Apavarga Vartmani Then there's those three things. What's the last line again, Prabhu? Shraddha, Bhakti. What is it? Shraddha, Ratim. Shraddha, Ratir, Bhakti. Yeah, so he says that in the association of devotees, satam prasangam. So satam means devotees, prasanga means association. In the association of devotees, you're going to hear all about Krishna. Why? Because that's what devotees talk about. And then by hearing, then one very quickly, very easily makes progress on the path towards liberation. And then even beyond the path of liberation, then these three things, anukramishiti, step by step, we develop shraddha, fixed faith, rati, attraction and attachment to Krishna, and bhakti means loving devotion. So that's exactly what he's talking about, is this situation where we associate with devotees, hear about Krishna, we become attached to those topics of Krishna, we become mad to hear about the transcendental qualities and pastimes of Krishna. I remember when I was doing Bhakti Vedanta, it's like we were getting to the end of the 10th canto and we were getting in so much anxiety. We're just like, oh no, it's going to end, it's like we didn't want it to end. And I mean, we were literally like feeling so much pain. It was almost like, we're hearing about how the gopis, even when they're with Krishna, they're like feeling this pain of impending separation. They're totally stressed out that, okay, we're with Krishna, but he's going to leave, So we were feeling that. It was actually very like, it was causing so much anxiety. A few of us were like talking about it, that what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to live without this in our lives? We became addicted. We literally became addicted to that every day, having class and assembling with other devotees who are all eager to hear, and, teachers who are eager to recite and explain and enlighten us. And we got like addicted to that. And that's what happens, just reading here in the purport that Prabhupada saying that the ocean of material existence can be crossed very easily if one simply becomes mad to hear the glories of the Lord. Bhavad Guna Kata. For one who persistently engages in hearing the topics of the Lord from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, and who is actually addicted to this process, just as one becomes addicted to intoxicants, it is very easy to cross the ocean of material existence. So it worked, we all got really addicted to it. And then like Bhakti Prabhav Swami, one of our teachers, we were complaining. We were like, Maharaj, how are we going to survive after this 10th canto is finished? He said, don't worry, Krishna's not going away. He's coming back in the 11th canto. He's going to be speaking to Uddhava. It's going to be sweet. Don't worry. But yeah, but then, even then when the 12th canto was over, it was very sad. And then I immediately started writing to Buri Jan Prabhu. Prabhu, please, you need to get this Bhakti Sarvabhauma course ready. Like, we're all dying. We're just like, we just fell out of the oasis of nectar into the dry desert without these classes in our lives. So we're all eagerly waiting for Bhakti Sarvabhauma from you. Well, this is what it's like. So I'm just warning you that this is what's going to happen. You're going to get addicted. You're not going to be able to stop. You're going to go from Bhakti Vaibhava to Module 1 to Module 2 to Bhakti Vedanta, and your life is never going to be the same. So just be warned. And this happened to Dhruva Maharaj, just from hearing from Narada Muni, because Narada Muni is so pure. He's like, wow, hearing the description of the Lord and the qualities of the Lord, and now seeing you, I'm just addicted. Like I can't give this up. So I need to be with devotees. I need to be with devotees all the time, because I'm not going to be able to survive now without hearing about you. So, so that's his request. And Prabhupada, he relates this to his mission. This is the whole mission of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is to create a space where devotees can come together and associate and hear the topics of Krishna. So yeah, Prabhupada says that. He says, he said, devotional service cannot be complete and cannot be relishable without the association of devotees. We've therefore established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Anyone who is trying to be aloof from this Krishna conscious society and yet engage in Krishna consciousness is living in a great hallucination, for this is not possible. So yeah, we literally cannot be Krishna conscious outside the association of devotees. That it is clear that unless one is associated with devotees, his devotional service does not mature. So we may think, oh, I can live outside devotees. I can chant, I can read, I can hear, I can like practice. But Prabhupada's saying that, yeah, you may be able to maintain what you've learned while you were with the devotees, but it's not going to grow. You're not going to advance. You're just going to maintain whatever. So whatever with the devotees, whatever we got while we were the devotees, we can keep, hopefully, if we put in a lot of effort, but it's not going to mature. And he says it does not become distinct from material activities. So, yeah, we may think that, oh, I'm cooking, I'm offering my food to Krishna, but it becomes just ordinary cooking, without the association of devotees being there. Everything just starts to become very ordinary. Like, yeah, I do my japa, other people do meditation, we all have our practices. It becomes like anything else that other people are doing. But when we're with the devotees, then we can come to appreciate, wow, this is not ordinary. This is not the meditation that other people do. This is not the way other people cook. This is not like even simple things like, taking your bath in the morning. It's not that devotees take bath like everyone else, it's like we're purifying our bodies so that we can be clean and pure to serve Krishna. It's like everything is just a different experience. So, oh, that's the verse that I was just thinking of. It's right here in the purport. Only in the association of pure devotees can the words of Lord Krishna be fully potent and relishable. So we may hear on our own, but only when with the devotees does the juice get flowing, that the nectar gets churned up, and that it keeps. So Prabhupada said this in the Krishna Consciousness Society. This nectar is flowing just like waves of an incessantly flowing river, and we have full engagement for hearing and chanting and serving practically 24 hours a day. So yeah, so this is what Prabhupada has given us. He didn't just give us some books and leave us to practice on our own. He created a society. And he knew that it's difficult, it's difficult to live in association devotees. One time, this was in one of my Bhakti Vaibhava classes, the teacher raised the topic, what is the most difficult thing in Krishna consciousness? What is the biggest austerity? And then he said, it's living with the devotees. Especially, if you live in the ashram with devotees, live in brahmachari ashram, but also if you're just very closely connected with a devotee community, you're always interacting with devotees, you're serving together. It's nice, but at the same time, there are a lot of difficulties. So I heard this really nice analogy that it's like being in a rock tumbler. That jewelers who want to polish stones and make them very glossy and shiny and smooth. So they take the rough stones and they put them in a rock tumbler. So rock tumbler is like a canister that's full of grit. It's full of this coarse sand, and the rough rocks go in that thing and they get tossed around. And so they're, of course, the sand is there smoothing them, but also they're bumping against each other. So the rough edges on the different stones are grinding against each other and they're making each other smooth. So we come into Krishna consciousness with all of our rough edges, from material life, our conditioning. It's like so many rough edges, and it's, we grate against each other and we poke each other with our sharp corners and like that. But in doing so, we become smooth. It's the process of it's actually the process of grating against each other that smooths all of us out. And if we didn't have each other to be, to be irritated by, then we might not be making so much spiritual advancement. So even those factors, even those, of course, there's so much sweetness and so much nectar in association devotees, but there's also a lot that irritates us. But we should see it that even that those irritating factors are smoothing out our rough edges, are softening us up, so that we can have the association with Krishna and not scratch him. It will be soft and smooth and nice. And just like, when you see these very smooth rocks, you go to the jeweler's store or somebody who collects stones, and you just want to touch them. You just want to hold them and feel them in your hand because they're so smooth and nice. So in the same way, we want to be smooth so that Krishna will want to touch us. He'll want to embrace us. So that's the benefit that Dhruva Maharaj is praying for. And this is what Srila Prabhupada created, the opportunity for us to have this precious, most precious thing, the association of devotees. So then Dhruva Maharaj goes on to, he ends his prayers by expressing gratitude for the Lord's causeless mercy, that even though he was materially motivated, the Lord appeared. And but then in the Lord's presence, Dhruva became even more painfully aware of his selfish motivations, because it's like, I remember when I was a new devotee and I went to one temple where the devotees were so Krishna conscious. They were just so fired up, totally surrendered. And when I got there, I just felt so bad about myself. I felt like I was just like a black spot on the white sheet, Oh my God, these devotees are so incredible and I'm such a loser. So it's like, when you're in the association of a lot of purity, like really pure devotees, and what to speak of in the Lord's presence, you become painfully aware of your own disqualifications, your own selfish motivations and material attachments. So that's Dhruva Maharaj's situation. When you're with people who are, when you're with total materialists, then you feel like you're a saint, right? That's why sometimes we're a little bit scared of associating with pure devotees. We feel more comfortable with people who are just at the same level of us or lower, because we feel good. Wow, I'm such an advanced devotee, I know so much more than them. I'm, chanting more nicely than they are, or, we're all kind of the same. We just validate each other. So we feel okay. But when we get with older devotees, senior devotees who are very pure, devotees very surrendered, like, oh no, I have so much work to do, but that's good for us. That's why, Rupa Goswami advises that we should seek the association of more advanced devotees, because then we'll understand that we still have some work to do. We can't put it on cruise control. So, yeah. So Srila Prabhupada says that Dhruva Maharaj asks for protection so that his material desires won't deviate him. So yeah, so he recognizes he has material desires and he prays to the Lord. Here I am with all my material desires. I'm so ashamed of myself, but whatever it may be, please don't let these material desires deviate me from your service. So that we should also pray like this, that, okay, I'm not pure yet. I still have some material desires, but Krishna, please don't let these material desires take me away from your devotional service or take me away from the association of devotees. My number one thing is I want to be a devotee, and I'm actually trying to get rid of these material desires. This is not my priority in life. This is not my main focus, but it is what it is, and I'm grappling with these things. And, but don't let them. I remember that when I was going into, maybe I told you this last time. Anyways, when I was 26, 27 years old, and I really wanted to get married, have a family, all that. But when I was going into my marriage, I was praying to Krishna so intensely. Krishna, I have this material desire. I want to have a family, but please don't let my family life deviate me from Krishna consciousness. Because I had read Bhagavatam and understood, had heard all these things about family life, entanglements, the dark well, all this, and I was thinking, please, Krishna, don't let this drag me down. I want to make advancement and go back to Godhead in this lifetime. And I feel like I really desire this situation, but please let it be favorable. So I was like, and also I said, even before I knew who my husband was going to be, I was, please give me a husband that's going to encourage me in my spiritual life, that's going to make sure that I have maintained strong sadhana throughout my grihastha ashram. Don't give me someone who's just going to pull me into sense gratification and drag me down. So yeah, Krishna kindly responded to my prayers, and he gave me a husband that was really very strict sadhaka, and so that was good. All right, yeah, so we can pray like this. So now Juba has offered his prayers. There's a lot more to those prayers, but we don't have time to go into detail on everything. So I just brought out a few main points there. Now we're going to hear Lord Vishnu's reply. So let's read texts 19 to 26.
Amal Charan Prabhuji. Prabhuji, we are not able to hear you. Or is it with me only? Are other devotees able to hear Amal Charan Prabhu?
No, Prabhuji is not audible.
Okay,
No,
Prabhuji.
no.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, Prabhuji, we are not able to. Daru Krishna Prabhuji. Daru Krishna Prabhuji. Daru Krishna Prabhuji.
नेटवर्क के
Hare Krishna Ganga Shakti Mataji. Please.
Text 19. The personality of Godhead said, My dear Dhruva, son of the king, you have executed pious vows, and I also know the desire within your heart. Although your desire is very ambitious and very difficult to fulfill, I shall favor you with its fulfillment, all good fortune unto you. Text 2021. The Supreme Personality of Godhead continued, My dear Dhruva, I shall award you the glowing planet known as the pole star, which will continue to exist even after the dissolution at the end of the millennium. No one has ever ruled this planet, which is surrounded by all the solar systems, planets, and stars. All the luminaries in the sky circumambulate this planet, just as bulls tread around a central pole for the purpose of crushing grains. Keeping the pole star to their right, all the stars inhabited by the great sages like Dharma, Agni, Kashyapa, and Shukra circumambulate this planet, which continues to exist even after the dissolution of all others. Text 22. After your father goes to the forest and awards you the rule of his kingdom, you will rule continuously the entire world for 36,000 years, and all your senses will continue to be as strong as they are now. You will never become old. Text 23. The Lord continued, Sometime in the future, your brother Uttama will go hunting in the forest, and while absorbed in hunting, he will be killed. Your stepmother Suruchi, being maddened upon the death of her son, will go to search him out in the forest, but she will be devoured by a forest fire. Text 24. The Lord continued, I am the heart of all sacrifices. You will be able to perform many great sacrifices and also give great charities. In this way, you will be able to enjoy the blessings of material happiness in this life. And at the time of your death, you will be able to remember me. Text 25. The personality of Godhead continued, My dear Dhruva, after your material life in this body, you will go to my planet, which is always offered obeisances by the residents of all other planetary systems. It is situated above the planets of the seven rishis, and having gone there, you will never have to come back again to this material world. Text 26. The great sage Maitreya said, after being worshipped and honored by the boy Dhruv Maharaj, and after offering him his abode, Lord Vishnu, on the back of Garuda, returned to his abode as Dhruv Maharaj looked on.
Jai, thank you. So the first thing that the Lord says to Dhruva Maharaj here is, Vedaham te vyavasitam. I have seen your determination. I know how determined you have been. And this word vyavasitam is same as vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kuranandanam, that Krishna says to Arjuna. So yeah, Krishna wants to see our determination. So sometimes he tests us, like Narada tested Dhruva, but when he sees that we're very resolute, we're unflinching in our devotional service, then he becomes convinced that we're serious and he blesses us. So here the Lord says, Tat prayachami badram te, that all good fortune unto you. I give you my blessings. I give you the highest benediction of loving devotional service to me. And I'll also fulfill your material desires, because I'm confident that the fulfillment of your material desires will not deviate you from your devotional service. And that was Dhruva's request. Rukmini?
Mataji, all good fortune means only spiritual things. But here, Krishna is offering material, pole star also. So, how to understand? All good fortune is, what I can understand is this.
Well, because I mean, pole star is not a material planet, right? The pole star is actually an eternal spiritual planet. It's a Vaikuntha planet that happens to be in the material universe. And the Lord eternally resides there. Lord Vishnu resides on that. I mean, Lord Vishnu presides over every Vaikuntha planet. So it's actually an eternal Vaikuntha planet that's presided over by an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, but it's in the material universe. It's the same planet that the demigods always go to, whenever they're in trouble. In the beginning of Krishna book, when the earth is overburdened with the military phalanxes of so many demons, and takes the form of a cow and approaches Brahma, and then Brahma goes with the demigods to the ocean of milk and appeals to Lord Vishnu. That's where they go. They go to the planet of Dhruva Maharaj. They go to this Vaikuntha planet in the material universe where Lord Vishnu lives. And actually, it's such it just shows how exalted Dhruva Maharaj is, that he has this planet that when the demigods go, they can't actually even enter into the planet. They just stand on the shore of the ocean and call, Lord Vishnu, please. But that's Dhruva Maharaj, like, he's there on that planet and he rules the planet. Of course, Lord Vishnu, he's the ultimate ruler of the planet. He's the ultimate controller of everything, but he establishes Dhruva Maharaj as the head of that planet. Yes, go ahead, Rukmini.
Mataji, but somehow I'm not finding it beneficial to rule for 36,000 big years.
Yeah, that's another thing. That was, so he rules for 36,000 years before he goes to the pole star. He rules this planet, right? He takes over being the king after his father retires. So yeah, the thing is that what happens, see, we have to be careful of our desires, because the Lord will often fulfill all of our desires, whether we want them anymore or not. I've even experienced this, that, desires that I had before I became a devotee, Krishna will fulfill those. And I'm just like, why, Krishna? Like, I gave up this desire a long time ago. And Krishna's like, oh, but you wanted it. I mean, not that he told me that, but somehow I get this feeling that, but you wanted it way back then. And I just want to make sure that you're not disappointed at the end of this life, that because you became a devotee, you couldn't get something that you wanted before becoming a devotee. So I feel like it's like that, that Krishna, he just wants Dhruva to be fully satisfied. So whatever it is that you ever wanted in your life, even if you don't want it anymore, I'm going to give you, because I want to fulfill all of your desires. So he gives him so many things. He gives him the pole star. And of course, first he has to rule his father's kingdom. And yeah, see, he wanted revenge against his stepmother and his brother at one point. He didn't even want it now. But still, the Lord says, yeah, they're going to die. You're going to get revenge. And they're just like, but wait a minute, right? And then that he's going to enjoy sense gratification. He's going to have strong senses. Now he's a pure devotee. Why does he need to have like strong senses and lots of sense gratification? He doesn't care about that. But he's like, no, you're going to have strong senses. You're going to have plenty of material happiness. And then he also says, but you're not going to be deviated by these, because you're going to remember the Lord. You're going to remember me at the time of death, and you're going to live with me eternally. And you're never going to have to come back to this material world. So, Prabhupada said elsewhere that sense gratification for devotees it's like the senses are like serpents in which the poison fangs have been removed. So very advanced devotees can have sense gratification and it doesn't disturb them, like Pundarik Vidyanidhi, that he was there like living in a palace and on the comfortable bed and being fanned by beautiful women and chewing pan and spitting it in a pot there and being brought, the best, most delicious foods. And yet he wasn't deviated at all in his consciousness by those things, because as soon as they read the verse about Krishna, he just like went into ecstasy and smashed all of his luxurious things in his room. So like that, the Lord knew that I can give him all these things and he's still going to be fixed in my service, and he assured him of that.
Mataji,
Okay.
just one more thing, that is there anything materially which is really required to do bhakti, like body, like wealth, like spouse, or anything? Is there anything? Because as per I have understood that bhakti is never dependent on anything. It's just only our mind that which deviates us from bhakti. So just if I have the comfortable environment, so I will be able to do bhakti nicely. The word nicely is coming. So this thought is coming, Mataji.
Well, bhakti, it comes from the heart. So if we're devotees at heart, then we're going to do bhakti in any circumstance. But depending on what service you want to do, or what service you've been asked to do, by your spiritual master, by your Diksha and Shiksha gurus, you may need some material resources, right? Like if someone asked you to go and start a temple, you need resources. You need a building, you need a place, you need, musical instruments, you need sets of books, you need, all kinds of things to get your temple up and running. So you need material things for that. But of course, they're not material because they're spiritualized by being used in Krishna's service. But you still need, money to get those things, unless you have someone who's just going to come along and supply them. So, Priya Mukunda Prabhu.
Mataji, so Krishna informs Dhruva Maharaj of his brother's ultimate demise and also of his stepmother's. So it is was Dhruva Maharaj one motivated really by revenge? And secondly, as we read in the subsequent chapters, after his brother died, Dhruva Maharaj went into and attacked the Yakshas, if I remember correctly, and he killed them, and ultimately he had to be calmed down and told that revenge is not the answer. So when Krishna had already told him that his brother would die, maybe I'm going a couple of steps ahead, but when Krishna had already told him how his brother is going to die, why did he react like that, or why did he not just tell his brother not to go into the forest?
Certainly he did. He was so angry, he was fuming with anger when he was insulted. And so, he was very angry with his stepmother and also with his brother. So there was a feeling was there at one point, but obviously, by this point, he wasn't feeling that anymore. But then there's another factor that comes into play, is that, we learn elsewhere in Bhagavatam that when someone offends a devotee, even if that devotee might forgive them, the Lord does not forgive them. The Lord will punish that person. So this may be, a situation of that Lord Vishnu is saying, yeah, I know that you've forgiven your stepmother and brother, but I still want to make sure that they are punished for mistreating you, because that was not right, and they can't just be let off the hook for that. So that could be part of it. Okay. Jagat Mata Sachi.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, is it so that Krishna fulfill our desire to further purify us, or to intensify our desire to attain Him?
Both. Yeah, both actually. Because when we want something and Krishna gives it to us, then we become very grateful. We become appreciative of him, and we feel, oh, Krishna really loves me, right? He gave me what I wanted. That's how we feel. If we really want someone gives, then we become affectionate towards that person. So that's just the way we work. So it causes us to feel, oh, Krishna really loves me, he cares about me, he gave me what I wanted, what I felt that I needed. And so we become closer to him. But at the same time, if we try to enjoy that thing that he gave us, then we're going to find that it's ultimately not as satisfying as we thought it was, because material things can't satisfy us. So then we'll become detached from it. Because as long as we want something, as long as we're hankering for something and we don't have it, we'll be fixated on it. But as soon as we have it and we realize that, oh, well, that wasn't all it was cracked up to be, then we can let it go. But if we never get it, we'll never be able to let it go. You see, sometimes we have to have it first, and then we can let it go. If we never get it, we'll always just be wanting it. So that's also, so it's both things happening simultaneously. But then that's kind of like learning the hard way. And we're going to see, in the next sections, that Dhruva is going to be actually lamenting that he put the Lord in this position of giving him material things. So, so the Lord, in speaking to Dhruva, he's like a fountain of benedictions. Every verse is just another benediction, another benediction. I'll give you this, I'll give you that. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in his purports that we have the same benedictions as members of ISKCON. We have the same opportunities here, because one of the things was, to perform sacrifices and austerities and achieve material happiness through those means. So we have the opportunity to perform the ultimate sacrifice, the Harinam Sankirtan Yagya, and we have the opportunity to give in charity. In ISKCON, we do so much prasadam distribution. So through these activities of Harinam Sankirtan and distributing prasadam, we can actually be happy in this world if we engage in these activities. Can be relatively happy in this life. And we also have, he said that you will never become old. So by devotional service, although the body may become old, but the devotee's heart and mind, and they don't become old. They don't become defeated by old age. Like that verse, Ayu harati vai pumsam udyam ashtan tayan aso tasyarte katita nita uttama shloka vartaya. That the rising and setting of the sun takes away the duration of life of everyone, except those who have dedicated themselves to always hearing topics of the Lord. So devotees are not defeated by old age. Why? Because devotees don't die. And that's, this point that we're able to remember the Lord at death. As ISKCON devotees, we get so many opportunities to remember Krishna, and we support each other, at the end of our lives, and devotees will come and chant and read and help you remember Krishna at the time of death, so that actually the soul doesn't, of course, the soul never dies, but death means repeated birth. So if we're not having to take birth again, then there's actually no death. The soul just, you're just meditating on Krishna, you're entering into Krishna's pastimes in your mind at the end of your life, you're so absorbed, and then you just go there. You just literally just go there. There's no interruption. So death is like, oh, everything that I was focused on, everything that I was absorbed in, it just got cut off, and now I need to start again. in totally different situation. That's death. But for a devotee, there's no death because you don't get cut off. It's just like you just go to what you're already doing. You're serving Krishna and thinking of Krishna, and you just go to continue serving Krishna and thinking of Krishna. And to go back to God, yeah, so we get this opportunity to go back to Godhead, like Dhruva will get the opportunity, and to never have to come back to this material world. So, yeah. All right, I think it's time for a break here. 7:05. Let's come back. Me, it's 7:05. I'm gonna come. So let's take a 10-minute break, and everyone come back 10 minutes from now. All right. All right, Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. Okay. So we were just hearing about how the Lord fulfilled all of Dhruva Maharaj's desires. He got everything that he ever wanted and more. So Dhruva Maharaj should be very happy now, right? He should be thinking, yay, everything I wanted in my life, I got. All my dreams were fulfilled. All my ambitions are achieved beyond my expectation. The Lord is so kind. I'm on top of the world. But did he feel like that? Not at all, right? He was actually not happy at all. He was feeling very ashamed of himself. So we're going to read about that now. Someone please read texts 27 to 36.
Despite having achieved the desired result of his determination by worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord, Dhruva Maharaj was not very pleased. Thus he returned to his home. Shri Vidura inquired, "My dear Brahmana, the abode of the Lord is very difficult to attain. It can be attained only by pure devotional service, which alone pleases the most affectionate, merciful Lord. Dhruva Maharaj achieved this position even in one life, and he was very wise and conscientious. Conscientious. Why then he was not very pleased?" Maitri answered, "Dhruva Maharaj's heart, which was pierced by the arrows of the harsh words of his stepmother, was greatly aggrieved, and thus, when he fixed upon his goal of life, he did not forget her misbehavior. He did not demand actual liberation from this material world, but at the end of his devotional service, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared before him, he was simply ashamed of the material demands he had in his mind. Dhruva Maharaj thought of himself to endeavor to be situated in the shade of the lotus feet of the Lord is not an ordinary task, because even the great brahmacharis headed by Sanandan, who practice Ashtanga Yoga in trance, attained the shelter of Lord's lotus feet only after many, many births. Within 6 months, I achieved the same result, yet, due to my thinking differently from the Lord, I fell down from my position. Alas, just look at me. I am so unfortunate. I approached the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can immediately cut the chain of the repetition of birth and death. But still, out of my foolishness, I prayed for things which are perishable. Since all the demigods who are situated in the higher planetary system will have to come down again, they are all envious of my being elevated to Vaikuntha Lok by devotional service. These intolerant demigods have dissipated my intelligence, and only for this reason could I not accept the genuine benediction of the instruction of sage Narada. Dhruva Maharaj lamented, "I was under the influence of the illusionary energy. Being ignorant of the actual facts, I was sleeping on her lap. Under a vision of duality, I saw my brother as my enemy, and falsely I lamented within my heart, thinking they are my enemies." It is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in my case, although I have satisfied the Supreme Soul of the whole universe, I have prayed only for the useless things. My activities were exactly like treatment given to a person who is already dead. Just see how unfortunate I am. For in spite of meeting the Supreme Lord, who can cut one's link with birth and death. I have prayed for the same conditions again. Because of my state of complete foolishness and paucity of pious activities, although the Lord offered me his personal service, I wanted material name, fame, and prosperity. My case is just like that of a poor man who, when he satisfied a great emperor who wanted to give him anything he might ask, out of ignorance, asked only for a few broken grains of husked rice. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, persons like you who are pure devotees of the lotus feet of Mukunda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can offer liberation and who are always attached to the honey of his lotus feet, are always satisfied in serving at the lotus feet of the Lord. In any condition of life, such persons remain satisfied, and thus they never ask the Lord for material prosperity.
All right,
Mataji.
thank you. Thank you for reading with so much feeling. We're really feeling Dhruva Maharaj's distress there. So, Dhruva Maharaj is just lamenting here, verse after verse of lamentations. Right after getting all of his desires fulfilled, he's just lamenting. So why is he lamenting? He gives many reasons here. So the main reasons are that he had stood before the Lord who could offer, anything, including liberation, including, pure devotional service, including going back to Godhead. And he had wanted something material. And even worse, he had wanted revenge. He had wanted to harm others, to cause harm to others. So, yeah, Prabhupada says that the verse, actually, the translation of text 29 says that when Dhruva Maharaj fixed that he had been hurt so badly by the words of his stepmother, that even when he was fixing his mind on his goal of life, on the Lord, he did not forget her misbehavior. So that shows that during his whole meditation, he was also remembering those harsh words, and he was feeling the pain, and he was having some spiteful feelings in his heart. So, yeah, in the purport later, Prabhupada says that when Dhruva Maharaj factually saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there was no question of a revengeful attitude towards his stepmother, nor any aspiration to lord over the material world, but the Supreme Personality is so kind that he knew Dhruva Maharaj wanted these. So it's like he was free, but he had wanted them. So so the whole time that Dhruva Maharaj was meditating before seeing the Lord, yeah, he wanted these. He really badly wanted this material kingdom. He wanted revenge. And Srila Prabhupada says in that purport to text 29 that these are demonic desires. So now, now Dhruva Maharaj is awakened. He's woken up. And with the light of daylight now, by Krishna's mercy, Krishna's like the sun. He's lighting up the daytime of his consciousness. And so he's seeing, when the sun comes up, we can see everything clearly. So he's seeing, wow, I was standing before the most kind, merciful Lord, the friend of everyone, the shelter of anyone, who can give all benedictions. And I was just like a little demon, wanting to hurt others and get material things for myself, for my own self-aggrandizement, just to show off that I'm better than them. That was his whole motivation, was just to show them that I'm better than you. And, so it was actually demonic, according to what Prabhupada says here, that these kinds of desires, this is what the demons want. They want to get things for themselves. They want to outdo other people materially. They want to hurt other people who have hurt them, who have gotten in their way. So that's actually like the demoniac mentality, exactly as Krishna describes it in chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita, right? So much wealth I have today. I'll get so much more according to my schemes. He is my enemy. I've killed him. Don't get in my way or I'll kill you too. I'll perform sacrifices. I'll give some charity and I'll enjoy. So it's exactly what Dhruva Maharaj's consciousness was like. And he's seeing it. He's seeing it like in black and white in front of his face. He's like, ugh, that was so bad. I feel so ashamed. My consciousness was so dirty. I could have gone back to Godhead, immediately. But now because of my material desires, now I'm stuck in this material world for at least another 36,000 years. That's a long time, right? To have to like stay in the material world. And then he specifically says that, you know, for the past 6 months, I was 24/7 just chanting this Vishnu mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, which is meant to take me to Vishnu Loka, but I just misused it. So instead of going to Vishnu Loka, I just stayed here and got temporary material things. And then he's lamenting, he's wondering, how could my consciousness have become so contaminated like this? It must be that the demigods, you know, were envious of me because they saw me doing all these austerities, and they bewildered my intelligence to make it impossible for me to actually have a spiritual goal in my life. And then he laments also that he didn't follow those initial instructions that Narada Muni had given him, because Narada Muni said, oh, who cares if your your stepmother yelled at you? That's common, you know, you're just a small boy, and sometimes parents have to chastise the children, and, you know, don't be so upset about it. So he's lamenting, yeah, I should have listened to Narada Muni. I should have not taken this so seriously. I should have just like let it go, you know, don't worry about it. And then he outright admits that I was in Maya. I was just in total Maya. He says that Daivim Maya Upashritya, that I was Dvitiya. I was deluded by this duality of friends and enemies. And that was all because of Upashrita, taking shelter of Maya instead of taking shelter of the Lord. And so by this duality, Dvitiya, we're talking about this, that seeing duality, seeing something separately from Krishna, then I saw my brother as my enemy. Bina means separate, like Bina Prakriti Ashtada, the material elements are Krishna's separated material energies. So Bina Drik, seeing my brother as Bina, as separate from me, then I saw him, I wasn't seeing properly, because actually nothing is separate. Everything is one, because we're all spiritual sparks. We're all part of the same whole. You know, Krishna is the absolute truth, and everything is within the absolute truth. So, and we're all just parts of that absolute truth. We're parts and parcels of the same whole thing. So, yeah, recently I was giving class from 11th Canto, chapter 23, texts 49 and 50. That's the song of the Avanti Brahman. So Avanti Brahman, he's being, you know, mistreated by so many people. They're spitting on him and urinating on his food and beating him up and all these things. But he's thinking that actually I can't become angry with them, because just like somebody who bites their tongue with their own teeth can't become angry, because they inflicted the pain on themselves. You know, it's like when you bite your tongue, it hurts so badly, you just want to yell at somebody, but you can't, because you just did it yourself. So he said, in the same way, we're all parts of the absolute truth, and we're all interconnected. And actually, there's no difference between me and these other, you know, apparently other beings, because we're all non-different, in one sense, non-different from Krishna, being his parts and parcels. So I'm actually just hurting myself. It's not that they're hurting me, but I'm hurting myself. So that was his vision. So I can't become angry at them. So so Dhruva Maharaj is seeing that before I was in illusion, I was in darkness, thinking that my stepmother was separate from me and that she was hurting me, but actually it was just me hurting myself. And also it was same thing, the Avanti Brahman, he concludes that it is all just in my mind. It's all just because of my perception. I perceive it as them hurting me, but actually my mind can see this also as Krishna's mercy, can see that all this, we were speaking yesterday, this is Krishna's arrangement for my purification, for my betterment, for my advancement, to induce me to take shelter. So he's lamenting his Maya, that he's not seeing things properly. And then, similar to this idea that he could have gone back to Godhead immediately. So he literally says that the door to Vaikuntha was open, but instead of going there, I just asked if I could stay here longer. And it's like you know, the story of Tukaram, when Tukaram, the flower airplane is coming from Vaikuntha to take Tukaram back to Godhead. Another airplane comes for his wife, I believe, or maybe I think she gets on the same airplane. So Tukaram and his wife, who was like critical of Krishna the whole time, but because she was so devoted to her husband, she goes back to Godhead. And then all the villagers come. They're all standing there, you know, at the place where the airplane is sitting there on the ground. And the messengers of Vaikuntha, along with Tukaram, they're, come on, let's go. We can all go back to Godhead right now. And then what are the villagers saying? They're like, oh, but, you know, my daughter's wedding is scheduled for 1 month from now, so I need to stay a little bit longer here. The other ones, oh, I have the crop in the field. It's going to be ready to harvest, you know, in a few months. I need to stay for that. And oh, my whatever, you know, they all have some reason, what they see as a very urgent, very important reason for staying in the material world a little bit longer. So Dhruva Maharaj is feeling like that the door to Vaikuntha was open, and I simply asked if I could stay here longer. Oh, please give me a comfortable situation in this world. So he's feeling really stupid. And then he laments also that the Lord offered me his personal service, but I was just interested in name and fame. I wasn't interested in glorifying the Lord. I was interested in my own glorification, in my own, that people will glorify me as the best king of the best kingdom that no one's ever seen before in their life, and how famous I will be. So he's seeing how he was foolish because he misunderstood the relative value of things. That I was thinking that, you know, my material situation is more important than Krishna's personal service. So sometimes we might think like this too, that there's something more important in our lives than the Lord's personal service. You know, like maybe devotees call us, oh, Prabhu, we need somebody to cook the 6 o'clock offering, the evening offering. Oh, sorry, Prabhu, I can't. I have some this to do, that to do. You know, something else that's more urgent, more important than the Lord's personal service. So we have to be careful, because by thinking that way, we can prolong our time in this material world. But if we're seeing that the Lord's service is top priority, then the Lord will see that, oh, this person is willing to sacrifice things that they see as important, taking me to be the most important thing, then they're ready to go back to Godhead, because they really don't have any interest in this material world. So, of course, we have situations where other people are depending on us. Like if we have children, then obviously we need to take care of our children first. You know, Prabhupada said that child worship is more important than deity worship. But the stress should be on raising our children to be pure devotees of Krishna, so that we can increase the personal service to Krishna by training more souls to serve him. Jagat Mata Sachi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, the situation is what is happening with the Dhruv Maharaj has happened to all of us. It happened to me specifically. I know the philosophy, but still I know what to do, but still can't get away the feelings in my mind, and the mind keep pushing. No, this happened to me. No. So things keep coming on. How can we avoid?
You mean like material desires?
Material desires or something like situations that happen to us, kind of things happen. They keep coming on our mind, and lots of things. Desires also, so many things. We know the philosophy that we should avoid it. We must chant the holy name. But still, we read philosophy, but still unable to apply it.
Yeah, I mean, that happens. Like, let's say somebody insults us or somebody treats us unfairly. then you're chanting your japa, the whole thing's going through your mind. Oh, they said this and they said that. Why did they do that? What's wrong with them? Oh, I should have said this. I should have said that. Or maybe this person can help. You know, the whole thing is going through the mind the whole time we're chanting, right? Like Dhruva, he's doing his austerities. Oh, my mother, she hurt me so bad. Right? I should have said this. I'm going to do this. So it's the same thing. So how to let go of these things. Yeah, we have to really try to see Krishna in the situation. Try to see that nothing happens except by Krishna's will. You know, so the reason that this person said this, the reason the person did this, and is because somehow or other Krishna wanted this to happen. And why? And Krishna is my best friend. So he wouldn't do something just to hurt me, just to put me down. Krishna does everything to lift us up. So we have to try to change our perception of the situation. And instead of seeing it as a hurtful and, you know, painful situation, we have to see it as how it can be uplifting. And often you'll see, like, if you reflect on the difficulties in your life, when the difficulties first come, you think, oh, this is so bad, this is terrible, what am I going to do now? How could Krishna do this to me? I'm his devotee, you know, he's supposed to be merciful, right? And so we can even have doubts, you know, about Krishna, whether he's actually all powerful, whether he actually loves us, or whether he actually exists, you know, when very hard things happen to us. But then later, you know, like maybe many years later, we look back on it and we're like, oh, that was so good. You know, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have done this, wouldn't have happened, and that wouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't be here now, and I wouldn't be so happy, and I wouldn't be so advanced, and I wouldn't be so fortunate. So, you know, in Krishna consciousness, it's always a happy ending. So if you're not happy, that means that it didn't end yet. You're still in the middle of the story. Right? Like you start reading a book and everything's nice, and then there's some conflict. The main character has a conflict and a struggle, and there's so many problems, and they have to do this and that and the other thing, but it ends up being happy, and at the end of the book, everybody's satisfied. So our life is like that. You know, we come to Krishna consciousness, everything is blissful, but then there's some conflict, there's struggle, we have to do this and do that, and it's hard and it's troublesome, and we get scared and we're insecure and a lot of anxiety. But then in the end, it's always a happy ending. So, yeah. And if those things didn't, and the thing that happens, like in any good book, I was just talking to Urmila Prabhu because I'm trying to write a story. She said, in any good book, any good like narrative, the character has to grow. There has to be conflict, and there has to be plot development based on the conflict. And as a result of the conflict and the struggle, there has to be personal transformation and growth in the character. Otherwise, it's not satisfying. So the reason is because that's how life is. You know, we're not satisfied unless there's some personal growth and transformation. And often that personal growth and transformation can only happen if it's catalyzed by some kind of conflict. So we actually need these difficulties in our life to grow. And after we've grown, after we've transformed, like Dhruva Maharaj, right? There was a conflict, it led to a struggle, and now he's transformed. We're seeing that he's a different person. He even says that, I'm a different person now. When he comes back, when he goes back home. So we become a different person, and then we look, and then at the end, we're happy. And then we look back at our life and thank Krishna for that conflict, because it enabled me to grow. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to be happy now. I would just be back where I was before the conflict, which was, you know, on a lower state of consciousness. So we have to see all these things as Krishna's mercy and be patient and have faith that, okay, I don't understand this now. I don't understand how this is good for me, but I have faith that Krishna is the supreme controller and he's my best friend. And so he's doing this for my good, and it'll all be how it's good for me. That will become revealed in the future. So I'll just wait for that day. In the meantime, I'll just continue chanting my rounds, taking shelter of him, serving him, cultivating nice relationships with devotees, and trying my best to be peaceful and always remember that Krishna loves me. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So, you know, it's interesting because usually when we look at the story of Dhruva Maharaj, what we take away from this story is that it's okay to have material desires, because you can approach Krishna with your material desires and they'll be purified and you'll become a pure devotee. But actually what we see here is that what we can learn is that, yeah, okay, you can approach Krishna with material desires, but if you do so, you're going to lament. There's going to come a time when you're going to lament having done so. So it's better to not approach Krishna with material desires. So yeah, Srila Prabhupada says in the last line of this text 31 purport, let me just find it here, that, yeah, he says, Dhruva Maharaj greatly lamented his propensity for ruling the world and for his revengeful attitude towards other living entities. So, yeah, ideally, as far as possible, every one of us engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness should be free from all kinds of material aspirations. Otherwise, we're going to have to lament. So then this section ends with, see, Maitreya is talking to Vidura. So Maitreya is anticipating that Vidura, because Vidura is such a humble devotee, he might be thinking that, oh no, I also have many material desires. Will I also have to lament like this? And so Maitreya is reassuring him. He's saying that in text 36, he's saying, no, you're a pure devotee. You're not going to ask the Lord for any material prosperity, nor mystic powers, nor liberation. You're going to be satisfied in any material condition and simply desire to serve the Lord's lotus feet, to drink the honey of the Lord's lotus feet. So, yeah. And then, so we might wonder, well, okay, I'm in this material world, I have a material body, I have a material home and family and all this. If I don't approach the Lord about my material needs, then does that mean that I just, those things are disconnected from him? That in fulfilling my material needs, am I just to forget about the Lord and endeavor on my own? Like that's a totally separate part of my life, getting my material necessities. And that doesn't make sense, right? That we will disconnect our needs and desires from Krishna. That's more like a karma kanda approach, right? That you're just like, okay, Krishna's the Lord, and I'll, do some service for him and offer arti and things. But then when it comes to my material needs, then I can't go to Krishna for that. So I'll just either struggle on my own, or maybe I'll approach some demigod or something to get help with those parts of my life. But that's not what we're supposed to do. That's not what we're learning here from Dhruva Maharaj. So then what should we do about our material needs? And Srila Prabhupada addresses this in his purport at the end of text 36. He says, every one of us already has an arrangement for our standard of material comforts. A devotee should always remain satisfied with the standard of comfort offered by the Lord, as stated in Ishopanishad, Tena Tyaktena Bunjita. This saves time for executing Krishna consciousness. So, yeah, so the idea is Tena Tyaktena Bunjita, that everybody has their quota. At the time we were born, we have our karma from our previous lives. And as devotees also, we have, maybe that's changed, but Krishna knows what we need. Krishna knows exactly the material facilitation that we need for who we are, what our conditioning is, what the services we need to accomplish. And Krishna is very capable of supplying those things. And he will do so, in various ways. He's going to take care of us. And we don't need to struggle so much for those things. We just can make some minimal effort, and whatever it is that we're destined to have, we're going to get very easily. So, and then we just need to be satisfied with it. That's all. Simple living and high thinking. And we don't need to go to Krishna, oh, please give me this, please give me that, please give me this. And we definitely don't need to go to any demigod, and we don't need to struggle too much on our own either. we just ask Krishna for devotional service and accept whatever situations he's given us for, providing for our families and things in an honest, straightforward way, and spend most of our mental energy and physical energy in serving him. And that's the way to have a peaceful life in Krishna consciousness. So, okay. All right, we had better plow on here. So now Dhruva Maharaj is going to go home finally to his father. So let's hear the description of Dhruva's glorious return to the kingdom of King Uttanapad. Someone please read text 37 to 53.
When King Uttanpad heard that his son Dhruv was coming back home, as if coming back to life after death, he could not put his faith in this message, for he was doubtful of how it could happen. He considered himself the most wretched, and therefore he thought that it was not possible for him to attain such good fortune. Text 38. Although he could not believe the words of the messenger, he had full faith in the word of the great sage Narad. Thus he was greatly overwhelmed by the news, and he immediately offered the messenger a highly valuable necklace in great satisfaction. Text 39 to 40. The king Uttanpad, being very eager to see the face of his lost son, mounted a chariot drawn by excellent horses and becked with golden filigree, taking with him many learned Brahmanas, all the elderly personalities of his family, his officers, his ministers, and his immediate friends. He immediately left the city. As he proceeded in this parade, there was auspicious sounds of conch shells, kettle drums, flutes, and the chanting of Vedic mantras to indicate all good fortunes. Text 41. Both the queens of King Uttanpad, namely Suniti and Suruchi, along with his other son, Uttama, appeared in the procession. The queens were seated on a palanquin. Text 42 to 43. Upon seeing Dhruv Maharaj approaching the neighboring small forest, King Uttanpad with great haste got down from his chariot. He had been very anxious for a long time to see his son Dhruv, and therefore with great love and affection he went forward to embrace his long-lost boy. Breathing very heavily, the king embraced him with both arms. But Dhruv Maharaj was not the same as before. He was completely sanctified by spiritual advancement due to having been touched by the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 44. Reunion with Dhruv Maharaj fulfilled King Uttanpad's long cherished desire, and for this reason he smelled Dhruv's head again and again and bathed him with torrents of very cold tears. Text 45. Then Dhruv Maharaj, the foremost of all nobles, first of all offered his obeisances at the feet of his father and was honored by his father with various questions. He then bowed his head at the feet of his two mothers. Text 46. Suruchi, the younger mother of Dhruv Maharaj, seeing that the innocent boy had fallen at her feet, immediately picked him up, embracing him with her hands, and with tears of feeling she blessed him with the words, "My dear boy, long may you live." 47. Unto one who has transcendental qualities due to friendly behavior with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all living entities offer honor, just as water automatically flows down by nature. 48. The two brothers, Uttama and Dhruv Maharaj, also exchanged their tears. They were overwhelmed by the ecstasy of love and affection, and when they embraced one another, the hair on their bodies stood up. Text 49. Suniti, the real mother of Dhruv Maharaj, embraced the tender body of her son, who was dearer to her than her own life, and thus forgot all material grief, for she was very pleased. Text 50. My dear Vidura, Suniti was the mother of a great hero. Her tears, together with the milk flowing from her breasts, wet the whole body of Dhruv Maharaj. This was a great auspicious sign. 51. The residents of the palace praised the queen. Dear queen, your beloved son was lost a long time ago, and it is your great fortune that he now has come back. It appears, therefore, that your son will be able to protect you for a very long time and will put an end to all your material pangs. 52. Dear Queen, you must have worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead who delivers his devotees from the greatest danger. Persons who constantly meditate upon him surpass the course of birth and death. This perfection is very difficult to achieve. 53. The sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, when everyone was thus praising Dhruv Maharaj, the king was very happy, and he had Dhruv and his brother seated on the back of a she-elephant. Thus he returned to his capital, where he was praised by all classes of men.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, yeah, when Dhruv Maharaj came home, Uttanapad, he couldn't believe it. He was sure that Dhruv Maharaj was dead. Because, you know, what are the chances of a 5-year-old surviving in the jungle for 6 months, especially, you know, in such a delicate, being a prince living in the palace. And also he thought that he had acted so sinfully by mistreating Dhruva that he didn't deserve to see his son again. So for those 2 reasons, he was very surprised that he was so fortunate that it was a miracle, you know, that his son was coming back. And so we see that here we see in this description, we hear about the responses of different personalities. So one thing we see that's nice is that Suniti, we were hearing before how she's such a great person. She's such a great personality that even though Suruchi had offended her son and brought about this whole calamity, from the point of view of the palace, it was a huge calamity that the 5-year-old child went missing. He was just gone. And of course, Suniti, she was already like neglected by her husband and everyone else. And now her son was gone too. She was just alone, you know, although she had advised him to go, but, you know, she didn't have her son with him and he was her only child. So you can imagine she was suffering a lot. And she could have also blamed Suruchi for it, but she didn't. It shows here that she didn't hold any grudge against Suruchi at all. When they were going, she invited Suruchi, come, please get on the chariot. We're going, you know, come with us. So she was very gracious like that. And Dhruva Maharaj also, he had no grudge against Suruchi. It's described here that he bowed down to both Suniti and Suruchi. So, so this is the effect of Krishna consciousness. That, like in text 43, it says that Dhruva was not the same. He was not the same as before, because having been touched by the Lord, he was purified of all material contamination. And after just 6 months, he was a totally different person. So we can see this even now. You know, some of you were talking about how you've been awake, how you woke up, how you realized how you're different now than you were before, how you perceive things different, you live different, you understand things different. It's like you're different, you're a different person. And yeah, and this affects others, because there's one devotee here that he comes from New Jersey, and he was kind of like a bit of a rough guy, you know, like big black beard and a lot of tattoos all over him, and, you know, kind of like a rough, rough guy. And then somehow or other he met devotees, and he came to the preaching center in Gainesville where I was living at the time. And he stayed for maybe like 4 or 5 months. And then after that, he went home to visit his family. His sister was there, his younger sister was living at home. And, you know, he used to be really mean to her, used to beat her up and, you know, swear at her and just treat her really badly. But when he came home after living in the ashram, brahmachari ashram for some time, then she was like amazed. He was nice, he was kind, he was helping his mother cook, he was cleaning the house, he was like being so sweet with his sister. He was explaining to her all the nice things that he was learning, you know, about how to live. He was waking up early in the morning and doing his japa, and she was just like, what happened to you? You like it totally. And then she said, whatever it is that you just did, I want to do, because the way that you transformed, I need to transform myself. And then she came to the same place. She came to Gainesville, and she moved into the women's ashram there. And she also became a devotee. And she actually passed him. She actually made so much advancement. She got initiated before he did. Now they're both initiated devotees. But it was just funny because, like, you know, his advancement in Krishna consciousness inspired her. But then later he kind of like, he sort of like started a little bit getting out of it. Like he moved back home and got a job for a while. And then, but when his sister stayed on and she actually got initiated, he was like, oh no, my God, my younger sister got initiated. What's wrong with me? You know, I need to pick it up. I need to step it up. And then he came back. And this time, like before, he was living in the ashram, but this time he put on saffron. He was like, I'm getting serious. He took a vow, brahmachari vow for 2 years. And then he got initiated, and he's doing very well now. He's a project director at a new preaching center here. So so it just shows how our advancement in Krishna, the transformation that others see in us, it inspires them also. And we can inspire people that way too, by our personal example. So it's interesting that Suruchi, because she was previously so ill disposed towards Dhruva, you know, she literally wished him to die. She was like, your life is so useless. You should just go and die, you know, and take birth again. So how is it that now she's embracing him and blessing him and may you live a long life? You know, before she was like, your life is useless. You may as well end it now because you're not going anywhere with this in this lifetime. And now she's like, no, live a long life. You're so glorious. So what was it that made her totally change her disposition towards Dhruva? That's explained in texts 46 and 47. So 46 mentions how she was moved by his humility. Let's see what it says here exactly. It says, seeing that the innocent boy had fallen at her feet. So she was not expecting that. She was thinking that this boy is going to come, he's going to hug his mother, he might hug his father, but he's going to look at me with a look to kill me, you know, like he's going to burn me with his glance after what I did to him. But he wasn't. And she saw that it wasn't just that he, you know, mechanically paid obeisances because she's a senior, but she felt that this boy has nothing against me. He has absolutely no grudge. He's totally forgiven me. He's really moved on. He's a saint. And so, like text 47 says that one who's blessed by the Lord is honored by all. So because she could see that he was blessed by the Lord, then she actually respected him. She actually honored him. So there's two very powerful things going on. One is the power of humility, that by humility we can win the hearts of even someone who's very against us. And recently I had this experience that I said something in a class that really upset somebody. There wasn't really anything wrong with what I said, but he interpreted it in a different way, and he just reacted. So and he's actually a very senior devotee. So he called me in the temple. So he called me he called a board meeting of all the temple managers, and he called me in there, and he, like, in front of everyone, just blasted me for like an hour, just like boom, boom, like, and actually, like, the points that he was raising, like, had nothing, like, some of them had absolutely nothing to do with what I said. And it was just coming out of nowhere. And everybody was just sitting there, but no one was saying anything because he's, like, you know, the senior most devotee in the room. But then I just was like, okay, well, I'm not going to get anywhere arguing with this devotee. So I just, you know, apologized. And I said, I'm very sorry, Prabhu. It's clear to me that I have a lot to learn from you. And I appreciate that you're trying to help me advance in my spiritual life by correcting me. And then I said, you know, Prabhu, you're significantly older than me, and you're senior to me, and I humbly request you to see me as your daughter, and just you know, be patient with me, because just like, you know, a child makes mistakes, and the parents, they correct the child, but they do it in a gentle, loving way to encourage them. So please, you know, correct me, but do it in a gentle way, like with love, like, you know, as if I'm your daughter. And he just like totally melted, you know, he just totally changed. And he's like, yes, you know, you have, I care about you like my, yeah, he totally just like changed his whole mood towards me. So that's the power of humility. And somehow, not that I'm generally humble, but somehow Krishna inspired me at that moment to with a little humility to save the situation. And after the meeting, the other devotees that were there, they're all like, you know, big temple managers. They came to me and they're like, that was amazing how you handled that situation. Like, they were applauding me. So I was like, oh, thank you, Krishna. You really bailed me out of that one. So yeah. And then the other thing that's powerful going on here is, in addition to the power of humility, is the power of the Lord's favor. So when one is favored by the Lord, then see, when the Lord is pleased with us, it goes back to that thing that we're all connected to the Lord. We're all parts and parcels of the Lord. So when the Lord is pleased with us, then others also become pleased with us. And like the 6 Goswamis, you know, dhira dhira jana priya priya karo, that gentle people appreciated them, and even rough people appreciated them. And I also experienced this, that on book distribution, sometimes out there on the street, and there's some rough people, you know, like I was on the street and this homeless guy was coming, and he was intoxicated, and he was very aggressive. You know, he was pushing people out of his way, and he was walking down a crowded market area. He was pushing people out of the way and yelling and swearing at people, and he was just really horrible. And he was coming towards me, and I was thinking, uh-oh, Krishna, please don't let this guy like disturb me too much. And then and then he saw me, and he just like looked at me for a long time, and I was like, oh no, here it comes. He's gonna like swear at me and tell me to get out of here. But then he said, are you a Hare Krishna? And I said, yeah. And he said, you Hare Krishnas, you're the best people on the planet. I hate everybody else, but I love you guys. You know, and he was like that. And then he turned around and he said, and he started yelling at everybody around me in the market. He was like, all you people, you should all come over and take the books that she's giving, because these books can actually help you, and you should give her money. Don't waste money here on the market. Just give it to her, because out of everybody that says that they're helping people, she and these Hare Krishna people are the only people that are actually helping anybody. And he was, I mean, he was doing it in his own like rough, aggressive way, but he was like helping me and glorifying me, and everybody was stopping and looking, and I was just like, dang, what's going on here? So yeah, it just goes to show that when one's favored by Krishna, then even the roughest people, they will like you and appreciate you. So we just have to get Krishna's favor, and we're going to be okay. So, okay, a few more significant things that happen here is, so when Suniti sees Dhruva, then her motherly affection is like, just like full scale, full speed ahead. And her breasts start flowing with milk. She embraces Dhruva, and you know, he's a small child, so the milk is flowing out her breasts and down on his head, and he's getting like an abhishek of breast milk. So Prabhupada comments that this is significant. It means that he's going to be the king, because when a king is installed on the throne, then there's abhishek. So, or when we install the deities in the temple, then we do so with the abhishek ceremony. Abhishek is part of the ceremony. So Dhruva is getting, this is indicative of his imminent installation as the king. He's getting his abhishek. And then also Suniti calls him a great hero. And that's because he's been heroic over Maya. He's conquered Maya, he's conquered illusion in all the ways that he was lamenting that he was in illusion. He's conquered all those things. And we'll also see in the next chapters how he conquers other enemies very heroically. And we see here that the good fortune of having a devotee mother, because devotee parents, they want the children to be nice devotees, and they're always praying for them. You know, Utanapada is saying, "Dear Queen," this is text 52, "Dear Queen, you must have worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead who delivers his devotees from the greatest danger." He's saying that the reason that this boy didn't die, you know, out there in the jungle, wasn't killed by some wild beast, is because you were praying for his protection. You were praying to the Lord the whole time. So these two things were going in Dhruva's favor. He had the mercy of Narada Muni. He had, you know, his own devotional practices that were protecting him. And also his mother was praying for him. So we need all these things, you know, we need the blessings of our gurus. We need the prayers of our parents. We need, you know, the power of our own spiritual practices. So this is something that we can do. Of course, parents, mothers especially, are always going to pray for their children, especially devotee mothers are constantly, as a devotee mother, I was constantly praying for my children. But we can also pray for other devotees, you know, who are having difficulties. We can pray for new people. You know, like when new guests come to the temple and they're showing some signs of sincerity, we can pray for them. That makes a big difference in their lives. And it also makes a big difference for us, because I started doing that, you know, like a new devotee joins the temple, and then I'll be sitting there chanting my japa in the temple, and then they come in and they go and pay their dandavats to Srila Prabhupada and to deities. And while they're doing that, I'll be praying to Srila Prabhupada and the deities, you know, please give this person your mercy. Please let them to let go of their material attachments and be fixed in devotional service. Help them to do their sadhana really nicely, to get a taste for chanting, to get a taste for serving, so they can continue serving their whole life. I'll be praying like that. And whenever I pray like that, I feel like Krishna is so happy with me. You know, I feel like so much mercy is getting poured down on my head, not just on the person that I'm praying for, but for me. And you know how we hear, like, now, month of Kartik, we're offering lamps to Damodar. So one year when we were reading about how to observe the month of Kartik, I was reading that if we offer a lamp for our, you know, from ourselves, then we make advancement. But if we offer a lamp on behalf of another person, then we make 10 times more spiritual advancement. So that's a principle in Krishna consciousness, that the more we do for others, the more we act out of compassion for others, then the more we make advancement, rather than if we're just focusing on me and my own spiritual advancement. But if we really put our energy into helping others make spiritual advancement, that pleases Krishna many times over. So now I almost never pray for myself, but I always pray for others. And I feel like by praying for others, then I get 10 times mercy myself. So that's something that if you don't already do, you can start doing, is like every day praying for some devotees who are going through difficulties, or especially for junior devotees, that they can make fast advancement. And that helps them, and it helps us. In fact, Suniti will see later that she went back to Godhead just because of praying for Dhruva Maharaj, just because of helping him in his Krishna consciousness. So also devotee parents, extent that we try to we direct our children towards Krishna, then we can also become qualified to go back to Godhead just by directing them to become pure devotees. Okay, we're running out of time. Let's read 54 to 64.
This is Gita Krishna Prabhuji. Would you please like to read?
Yes, Mataji. Text 54. The whole city was decorated with garlands of banana trees containing bunches of fruit and flowers, and betel nut trees with leaves and branches were seen here and there. There were also many gates set up, which were structured to give the appearance of sharks. Text 55. At each and every gate, there were burning lamps and big water pots, decorated with differently colored cloth, strings of pearls, flower garlands, and hanging mango leaves. Text 56. In the capital city, there were many palaces city gates, surrounding walls, which are already very, very beautiful. And on this occasion, all of them were decorated with golden ornaments. The domes of the city palaces glittered, as did the domes of the beautiful airplanes which hovered over the city. Text 57. All the quadrangles, lanes and streets of the city and the raised sitting places at the crossings were thoroughly cleansed and sprinkled with sandalwood water and auspicious grains such as rice and barley and flowers, fruits and many other auspicious presentations were scattered all over the city. Text 58-59. Thus, as Dhruv Maharaj passed on the road from every place in the neighborhood, all the gentle household ladies assembled to see him, and out of material affection they have offered their blessings, showering him with white mustard seeds, barley, curd, water, newly grown grass, fruits and flowers. In this way, Dhruv Maharaj, while hearing the pleasing songs sung by the ladies, entered the palace of his father. Text 60. Dhruv Maharaj thereafter lived in his father's palace, which had walls bedecked with highly valuable jewels. His affectionate father took particular care of him, and he dwelt in that house just as the demigods lived their palaces in the higher planetary systems. Text 61. The bedding in the palace was as white as the foam of milk and was very soft. The bedsteads were made of ivory with embellishments of gold, and the chairs, benches, and other sitting places and furnitures were made of gold. Text 62. The palace of the king was surrounded by walls made of marble with many engravings made of valuable jewels like sapphires, which depicted beautiful women with shining jewel lamps in their hands. Text 63. The king's residence was surrounded by gardens wherein there were varieties of trees brought from heavenly planets. In those trees there were pairs of sweetly singing birds and almost mad bumblebees, which made a very relishable buzzing sound. Text 64. There were emerald staircases which led to lakes full of variously colored lotus flowers and lilies and swans, karandavas, chakarvas, cranes, and similar other valuable birds were visible in those lakes.
Okay, thank you, Priya.
Thank you.
So here we see how the city is all decked out to welcome Dhruv Maharaj home. And Srila Prabhupada points out here that the opulence in those times at Satya Yuga was based on natural resources. All these things that are described are, natural things like jewels and gold and ivory, fruits and flowers and grains. And then there are heavenly trees and songbirds and swans. So these are all things that come from nature, just nature itself, natural beings living in their natural habitats. And this is real beauty. This is what's uplifting. Decorations are meant to uplift us. So rather than like nowadays we have, if you drive down a city, it's like neon lights and, all these things. It's not uplifting. It's kind of agitating, everything's just catching your attention in a disturbing way. So, we should try to, when we decorate our homes and temples, to try to use these more natural kinds of decorations. Like in Vrindavan, they decorate the altar with so many fruits and flowers and leaves and things. So like that. So now we see, in the last few verses, we're going to see something very interesting about Vedic culture, because we heard about how Maharaj Uttanapad was devastated when his son left home, and he was just lamenting and feeling terrible. And then but then Dhruva Maharaj comes back and he's very happy that his son is safe, that he's well, that he's home. But he doesn't think, Jai, now we're going to live together as a family and happily ever after. He's not thinking that. He actually starts immediately thinking about his renunciation, about leaving home himself. So let's read these last few verses. We'll look at that. 65 to 67.
Yes, Priya Satyabhaman Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Text 65. The saintly king Uttanpad, hearing of the glorious deeds of Dhruv Maharaj and personally seeing also how influential and great he was, felt very satisfied, for Dhruva's activities were wonderful to the supreme degree. Text 66. When after concentration, King Uttanpad saw that Dhruv Maharaj was suitably mature to take charge of the kingdom and that his ministers were agreeable and the citizens were also very fond of him, he enthroned Dhruva as emperor of this planet. Text 67. After considering his advanced age and deliberating on the welfare of the spiritual self, King Uttanpad detached himself from the worldly affairs and entered the forest.
Thank you. Yeah, so I always find this, amazing. You see something similar with Kardama Muni and Devahuti. She has a son who is the supreme personality of Godhead, and then what happens? Kardama Muni takes sannyas. It's like, wait a minute, God is in your home. God is your own son. Why don't you just stay with him? You can worship God at home. Why do you have to go anywhere? But that was the culture. That was the Vedic culture. That, she has a son to take charge. Now I'm out of here. So Uttanapad also, he saw, here's my son. He's obviously very powerful. Uttanapad is very proud of his son. And he immediately starts thinking, okay, well, he's great. He's glorious. He's powerful. He's blessed. Let him be the king. He's going to do a better job than I can. So, as soon as he sees that Dhruva is mature and the ministers and the general public and everybody is confident in his ability, then Uttanapad leaves home to take up Vanaprastha life. So, and Srila Prabhupada comments that in the first verse of the next chapter, Prabhupada comments that Uttanapad didn't even stay long enough to get his son married. Generally, that's a responsibility of the parents, is to make sure their children are married, and when they're married and all settled up, then they can retire and leave home. But in this case, although that is generally a father's duty, but it says that, Prabhupada specifically says that Uttanapad was so anxious about his spiritual life that he left, and that spiritual realization is the highest duty, more important than all other work. So even it's our responsibility to perfect our spiritual lives is more important than our responsibility to get our children married and things like that. So that's what Prabhupada is saying. So the goal of life is not to have a happy family. The goal is to become detached from material entanglements and attached to Krishna. And family life can help us to come to that stage of detachment. And that's like, what I was saying, that sometimes you have to have something before you can let it go. So in the same way, Grihastha ashram is like, okay, have your house, have your money, have your car, have your kids, have your wife or husband, have it all, and realize that this is not ultimately going to satisfy your soul. And so that, and at the end of the life, we can easily become detached. All right, I realized I don't really need this big house. I don't need such a fancy car. The children are grown up, they're gone. They basically don't care about me anymore. So, now it's time to just really take shelter of Krishna, which is what I needed to do all along, but it took a lot for me to realize that. So Uttanapad, he saw it immediately. I'm sure he went through a lot of soul searching during that time, when Dhruva Maharaj was gone. I'm sure he was taking a lot of shelter of Krishna. He was praying. And we see so many examples of this throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, that great personalities, they leave home. Of course, Prabhupada says, and he says in this purport, the last purport, that nowadays we don't go to the forest. We can't go to the forest. It's just the world is different nowadays. But what does it mean to actually be a vanaprastha in this sense of leaving home? Prabhupada says it's that we take shelter of the Krishna consciousness movement. That's what it means. And the austerity is to practice the austerity of following the 4 regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds. So I was thinking that, for our movement, if we're going to encourage people, in our congregation to, especially at the end of their lives, to become detached and just focus on, Krishna conscious life, take shelter of the Krishna consciousness movement, then, we need to start providing for that. We need to have more than just brahmachari ashrams. We need to have vanaprastha ashrams, where old men and old women can stay and just dedicate themselves to service and absorption in Krishna consciousness, and live in the community of devotees and prepare themselves to go back to Godhead, both for devotees and also for pious non-devotees. Especially in India, there's so many very pious people who are not exactly devotees, but they understand these things to some extent. And so we can give shelter to people in their old age when they're, alone, and they realize they need to prepare for death. So yeah, that's one way that we can expand our services to the world, is by opening these kinds of facilities for people to depart gloriously from this world and go back to Godhead. Okay, so we have a little bit of time left. Is there any questions or comments? Rukmini Harisevani, Mataji.
Mataji, first of all, thank you so very much for today's session. Thanks a lot. And Mataji, I have just small question, that when Uttanpad left his kingdom and gave everything to Dhruva Maharaj, so what was the age of Dhruva Maharaj at that time? Was he like 5 years, 6 months old, or young?
Yeah, his age is not specified, but it seems that some time had passed, because it says when he was suitably mature. So it wasn't immediately. It says when after concentration, Uttanapad saw that Dhruva was suitably mature. So it makes me feel, and there's some discussion that he hadn't got him yet married in the next chapter. So it makes me feel like he wasn't 5 years old. Some years had passed. Maybe he was, at least he must have been a teenager, but he probably wasn't in his mid-20s yet. Otherwise he would have gotten him married already. But yeah, maybe he was like 16 or something like that. That's what I imagine, but it's not specified.
So actually it was coming like he's coming back to palace, and the verse is like goes very one after another, that now he's coming back to palace and now Uttanpad is going. So it was coming. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Yeah, I think he lets him grow up a little bit. He lets him become suitably mature. Yeah, suitably mature, the word is. So you wouldn't imagine that a 5-year-old was suitably mature, because also it says that when the general public also felt comfortable with him being the king. So the general public is not going to be very confident of a 5-year-old king, right? Of the world. So just when the general public are like, okay, this boy has grown up enough, he's qualified, he can do it, we see that he's intelligent. So yeah. Anything else? Or from yesterday, there was maybe some unanswered questions from yesterday. Rukmini, yesterday you were trying to ask a question and you ended up leaving the meeting and coming back, and we were already moving on. So do you remember what your question was?
I'm in blissful right now. I don't remember that question right now. I'm so sorry. But I want to say one thing, Mataji, that thank you so very much for sharing your experiences. It really helps a lot, in the previous classes also, and now also. You are a person who really wants the students to grow anyhow. If I talk about you take personal, the personal application, preaching point of view, everything, proper mood and mission, whatever, we think, and you really explain this very, very nicely.
and I just pay my humble obeisances to you, Maji. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Well, what's the use of personal experiences if you don't share them? Right? I feel like the more I share my personal experiences, the more Krishna will give me shareable personal experiences. He'll give me some experiences that are worth sharing. In other words, nice, good Krishna conscious experiences or understandings, even if they're difficult experiences, but he'll give me the understanding by which I realize how those experiences were valuable. Yeah. And I'm sure you all have so much to share also. I think your question was something about why would the Guru give us an instruction that we can't do if the Guru is representing Krishna and it knows our hearts, kind of thing, something like that?
Yes, Mataji. That was the question. That if Guru is giving us any instruction, and Guru is a representative of Krishna, and I have heard many of the I'm fortunate enough to hear from so many brahmacharis that they say that they say that they were not eligible to do this particular service, which their spiritual master has given, but they just followed the instruction and this happened. So at that time we were discussing like that it's a good, it's being honest that if you are not able to do something, you gave the example of the Srila Prabhupada and the disciple with the conversation. So it was coming in my mind that and the instruction which is given to the disciple from the spiritual master, it's like a mark on a stone. I cannot say no. And if you take initiation, it is said that it's like you are a sold out when you become a das or a dasi. So you are just with the Diksha Guru, you cannot argue or say anything. But yes, with the Shiksha Guru, if it's not the same at the time of Srila Prabhupada, Diksha Guru and Shiksha Guru both were Srila Prabhupada. But in now the present time, but we have the Diksha Guru, Shiksha Guru, so we can say something about ourselves. We can be honest. But with the Diksha Guru, still it's in my mind that how can it be? Yes, Malji, this was the question.
I mean, we always have to be honest with any guru. Krishnadas Kaviraj in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, he says there's no difference between the Diksha Guru and Shiksha Guru. So it's not that you don't have to listen to the Shiksha Guru, you only have to listen to your Diksha Guru. That's a misunderstanding that we have. Whoever you accept as a guru, you have to listen to them and take their advice. But there's also some scope for discussion. We can discuss things. If we have some concerns, if we have some hesitations, we need to bring those up. We need to get those doubts dissipated by the guru, or maybe the instruction needs to be moderated or like modified in some way so that we can go forward with confidence. But yeah, it's always good to be honest. Otherwise, what are we doing? The guru is, although the guru is a representative of Krishna, it doesn't mean that the spiritual master is omniscient. The spiritual master is not omniscient. Prabhupada said he wasn't omniscient because he's not God. But Krishna enables the spiritual master to know what they need to know, but that may not necessarily be everything. So sometimes we need to also inform our spiritual masters of our situation, and then they can accommodate those things. And that's what it means to have a relationship. Relationships means give and take. Not that you just sit there like a stone and spiritual master says something and you can't say anything. It's a relationship. So, and that's how we come to know each other better. And the better the spiritual master knows the disciple, based on what you tell him, then he can, give you instructions and help you advance more effectively in your spiritual life.
Thank
you. Okay. I mean, spiritual masters, they have their limitations also. They're not Krishna. Krishna is omniscient. Krishna is all powerful. Krishna is everything. Spiritual master is a jiva soul. We've seen how spiritual masters have sometimes, had problems, had mistakes. we hope that won't happen, you know, but I'm just saying that we can also be a part of the process of our own growth, and that's actually required of us.
Very helpful, Mataji. Thank you so much for clearing this.
Okay. And actually, spiritual masters, they appreciate that, you know, as long as it's done in a humble way. You see, we see that Narada Muni, it says that he was pleased when Dhruva Maharaj expressed his hesitations. He was pleased, and therefore he gave his mercy, rather than Dhruva just saying, yes, Guru Maharaj, I'll do what you said. All right, I'm going home right now, you know, and then not going home, and then just like taking 10 steps until Narada Muni goes away, and then being like, how can I possibly go home? That woman's there and she's horrible and I'm not going home. I'll just sleep under a tree then and figure something out for myself. You know, like that's not what we are meant to do. Okay, it's already time. So if anybody wants to leave, I realize you all want to run and offer your lamps to Damodar. So please don't let me stop you from doing that. But yeah, if anyone wants to go, just go. But I see that Priya Satyabhama has her hand up, so I'll take that question or comment.
No, I have a question, Mataji, in continuation to what you were telling, you know, how a relationship is there between a disciple and a spiritual master. So,
Yeah.
you know, at times, I mean, I don't know how true this is for others, but this happens generally with me. You know, Guru Maharaj knows me, everything is there, this and that. But you know, there are times when you feel incompetent maybe to ask a question, there is hesitation, or there's like, you know, okay, no, I cannot say anything. There are, you know, so many mental blockages, and you're like, okay, Guru Maharaj is on a very high platform and I cannot ask. And I think I've never been able to, you know, overcome this hesitation to ask a question, or to, you know, seek an opinion, or to talk.
Mm-hmm.
How do you maybe overcome that, or how do you work around it? I mean, at least I think this is, you know, failing on my part. I was
Yeah.
talking to somebody the other day also, and we were talking about the same thing. I'm like, the earlier disciples, you know, were like maybe, you know, 10 years ago, had taken initiation, and, you know, I have a relationship with spiritual master is very different. The kind what's going on now. So how do you work around it?
Yeah. Yeah, if you have a spiritual master that you can actually go to them and actually like talk to them, then but you're kind of like a little scared to do so because, you know, you're so much reverence, which is good, which is natural. But you know, you can go to a senior god sister or a senior god brother or god couple and you know, tell them what your concerns are, what you want to express, and then you know, you can ask them to go with you, you know, take some senior devotees with you, and then they can be like, you know, Guru Maharaj, Priya Satyabhama here has some question or some issue that she needs some guidance on, or some, you know, hesitation or some doubt, please you know, help her. And then that gives you an opportunity to express yourself, or you can explain the whole thing to them first, because usually what happens is you go in with your problem and then you say 2 words and then the guru says something and then you just clam up. You're just like, okay, Guru Maharaj, thank you very much, you're very merciful, all glories to Prabhupada, and go, you know. But you're not actually, and then you leave the room and you're kind of like, wait a minute, I didn't quite like totally clarify everything I needed. So if you explain the whole situation to the senior devotees, who will be less nervous than you because they're, you know, more close, more familiar with the guru, so then you can tell them, I'm probably going to get really nervous and I'm probably just going to clam up. So please, you know, make sure that everything that I want to say somehow gets said. So then let's say if you just become quiet and silent, then they can say, actually, Guru Maharaj, this is her situation. I'm not sure if you understood fully, but, you know, they can help with the communication. And then they go be like, oh, I see. All right. Well, why didn't you say that? You know? and then he can respond. So sometimes we need to get by with a little help from our friends, you know, and that's what devotees are for, especially senior god brothers and god sisters. That's what they're there for, and that's what they like doing, that kind of thing. You know, they like helping the younger god siblings to have good communications and have a nice relationship with the guru and feel closer to the guru. So I'm sure you'll find someone who'll be willing to help you. I think that's a good way to handle it. Otherwise, you know, you can write an email and then they reply. And then sometimes through writing, it's a lot easier because it's not scary. You know, you're a little you know, you're separated a little from space. So it's not so intense as when you're sitting right there at their lotus feet. So you can communicate fully, and then they respond. And then if you're not totally satisfied with the response, then you can write back. So, I mean, I do that with my spiritual masters. Sometimes we'll have a chain of, on one topic, we'll have like a chain of emails, you know, like 10, 12 different back and forth until finally, you know, like I'm totally satisfied and all my doubts are cleared up. So, yeah, a couple of ways that you can do it.
Thank you so much, Mataji. This is actually immensely helpful. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, and you'll find that if you do that, then your relationship with the spiritual master would become very close. But if you just, you know, there's some devotees, they don't want to bother the guru or whatever, so they'll go to his classes, they'll just kind of sit there, they won't ask any questions, they won't say anything, they'll go to a darshan, they'll just sit there, listen to the other devotees, and then and you know, so they get to know the guru because they're hearing from the guru, but the guru doesn't get to know you because he's not hearing from you. I mean, not hearing from is like you're going to lecture, but you know, like he can only know you. Like even Prabhupada says in purport in Bhagavad Gita that we know a person through their speech. So a person can know us only in as far as, you know, we can know someone only in as far as they speak to us and tell us about themselves. You know, I mean, many gurus, they seem to have this power of like, you know, seeing you, but that's also, it's limited. You know, we also need to communicate and actually play an active role in developing our relationship with a spiritual master. Like we have to be proactive about that. Don't just wait for them to come and ask us a question or something, but we need to express ourselves. And they actually appreciate that. There's one friend that I have here, and she's a disciple of Indradumna Swami. And she said, oh, I didn't want to bother him and things. But then she wrote to him, she sent him an email, and he wrote back like next day saying, you know, thank you so much for writing. I haven't heard from you for so long. I've been wondering how you've been doing. And then she wrote back saying, oh, I didn't want to, you know, I know you're very busy and I didn't want to take your time and things like that, just on my insignificant problems or whatever. He said, no, he said, write whenever you want. In fact, he said, if you can write every single day and I won't mind, I'd rather have that than you only writing once a year. And I'm wondering what's happening with you. And I'm, you know, in anxiety. So, I mean, that's what he said. Of course, everybody's different, but the idea is that the gurus, you know, they want to help the disciples. They want to know the disciples better. They want to help the disciple, and they need to know how to help the disciple. You know, otherwise they'll just give general instructions, you know, chant your rounds attentively, read Prabhupada's books, associate with devotees. But they won't be able to give the specific instructions that you might need in your life if they don't know your specific situation. So it's good to just like keep in communication at least once a month, you know, just send a letter updating them. You know, like sometimes I'll just send an email to my guru and the topic is just update, you know, like this is where I am, this is what I'm doing, this is, you know, some thoughts that I've had lately, and, you know, or I heard your lecture, I really like this point, you know, something like that. Just keep in touch. Because the more they remember you, when they remember you, they're going to send good vibrations in your direction. You know, if we don't keep in touch, they might just forget you for some time. But if you keep in touch, they'll be like, oh yeah, Priya Satyabhama, she's so nice, she's so sincere, she's doing this, that, the other thing. And they'll pray for you. Like I was saying, you know, that when they pray for you, you get so much benefit. So we want to make sure that they don't forget us. Especially nowadays, gurus have many, many disciples, and yeah. So don't be shy. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, then we better wrap it up here. So I'll see you next weekend. We'll continue the last 3 chapters in this section. Granta Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, all glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna.
I guess Prabhupada Priya Mataji ki jai. Hare Krishna. He says Geeta Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, your voice was really better than all the days we have passed. It was
Thank you.
really nicely to hear today, Prabhuji. I don't know how
Thank
you
you.
managed, how you did, but it was really good today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.